basketball. So I'd be like, oh my God, did you see the way he pump fake, went between his legs, spin off his left pivot foot? And did you see that? And she's watching the guy shoot the ball in the air.
Right.
Like, that's all she saw was the ball was in his hand and then it went up in the air.
Right. I feel like that's what you have to do in order for you to communicate. Because if I don't speak in the way that you speak, it's going to be very hard for us to try and communicate in the same manner. You have to be able to translate something in the way in which I receive information.
The Vanderbilt Project podcast starts in 3, 2.
Oh, there was no applause?
Well, it's like an intro with music, but it's added afterwards. So I go through my line and then I say the thing. So I'm going to say, here we go. Welcome to the Vanderbilt Project podcast, where you can see how we turn our life into a living. I want to shout out to the Vanderbilt family for tuning to episode 26. My name is Donovan Gray, and we have two guests on the podcast today. We have my sister, Nefertede, and we have EJ. So, yeah, EJ. And you can listen to us on all of the major streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher. I believe Google Podcasts stopped doing podcasts, so we might not be on there anymore. You can find me on Instagram if you want to see what we do, how we look like, at DONIVANGRAY. You can find my beautiful girlfriend, Anita Byrne, ANETABURN. We have Twitter and a YouTube channel. So the Bamboo Project, you can find us on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening to it on one of the major streaming platforms. So I wanted to introduce my guest today because I feel like she is one of the monumental people in my life, and AKA Queen Nefertede. Okay. So the reason why I say she's one of the most monumental people in my life is because I feel like I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today without my sister. She's probably, I'm going to say probably, I can't think of anybody else, the only person that I've known that has not done anything to me that I feel like was malicious. And she has supported me for everything that I do and have done my entire life, for everything. And she's honest with me. With everything. She says, I don't think that's good, that's stupid, don't do that. And I feel like it always comes from a good place. And even when I think about support, it's funny, I don't know if you remember when I was talking to a girl before and I wanted to go and buy a sex toy. Do you remember that?
Kind of.
Yeah, and she drove me to the store to go buy this sex toy. I didn't really know, what to do with it, but I had read on the internet, you could use this for your sex life. Go and buy this. So I went, but she drove me there. I had nobody to drive me or how to get there. So it's that kind of relationship between me and my sister that we have. That she go, you know what? I'll go drive you there. Two other things. One was, you might see on my Instagram, I do Money Mondays, right? So Money Mondays, I'll show my finances. I'll show what I'm doing, how I'm kind of doing my accounting and auditing my weekly finances or whatever, my expenses and whatnot, right? So I don't know if you remember this. When we were at Subway by the Grand Concourse. We were sitting down in the subway, and we were going over how to break down what you spend money on your expenses. It was like, okay, if you have, how much money do you spend on food? How much money do you spend on your phone bill? Do you remember that?
Kind of.
Okay. So that was kind of my first real intro into, looking at money, because I feel like a lot of people who just live, they don't track their money, and then when they actually do, they'll see, oh my goodness, I spend $400 a month on food, or I spend $300 a month on going to, the store. I spend $700 a month on buying weed or something like that. But you don't know those things because you're just paying for stuff and you're not actually thinking, how much does this actually cost in the long term? So because of that, I kind of took my life into a different direction, going, okay, I should probably start taking paying more attention to my, my spending habits. The third thing, which is my bike. So, I know you remember the stories of my bike.
Almost all of them. The most expensive.
Okay. So, with my bike, right? I'm a bike messenger for people who do not know. I used to have a regular bike, $700 bike that I had got, and I had worked at a place called the Melt Shop doing deliveries. So I realized, I'm not going to make that much money here, so I need to kind of move from here to a job that allows me to work whenever I want and allows me to make more money. So I did that on a place called Caviar, which I work at now. And when I was doing that, everything was going good, but everybody started coming to work for them, so the money started going down. I need to figure out a way, how can I take orders faster and not kill my body trying to ride 20, 30, 40, 50 miles every day? I decided to get an electric bike, right? This is before they were popular. People didn't really have them like that. It was just like, I knew maybe 2 people that had them. And I'm like, this is a smart idea. If I can get on the bike, I don't get tired riding the bike, and I can get places faster. It makes sense for my job to do that, right? So my first bike that I bought, it cost me $4,000 to get, right? So my lovely sister over here lent me the first $4,000, largest I ever had at one time ever, and she lent it to me to buy the bike. And I had asked my mom, and my mom was like, "I'm not giving you money for the bike. I don't care. You shouldn't have the bike." And we had this whole dispute. I had pretty much a business plan to give to my sister, like, okay, if I get the bike, I'll make this much money this week and that much money the week after that, and I'm going to be able to pay you back by this date and by that date. And I'm like, okay, if I want to borrow the money, I'm going to come to her seriously, right? And she lent me the money. So I was very happy, very ecstatic. But I have a $4,000 debt to pay back to my sister. So I'm working. I'm like, okay, everything's going according to plan. I don't even know if it was a month. Was it? I don't even know if it was. I feel like it might have been 5 to 6 weeks probably. Maybe around that time. I know I did not have all the money to pay her back yet. I don't think I had paid her back. And my bike got stolen, right? So now I'm like, okay, my bike just got stolen. How was the first time it happened? I was outside of, I was outside of this office space I used to work at.
I think you had locked it up or something.
I thought I had locked it up. That's what had happened. I thought I locked it up. I had like one of those wire locks. I was still new to biking. I didn't know you could just come down the street and just clip, the little wire cutter thing. So I'm like, all right. I went upstairs. I was talking to Hunter. I came back downstairs. My bike was gone. And I just remember feeling like I just was so enraged. I had so many different emotions. I was like upset. I was sad. I was disappointed because I'm like, it's $4,000 bike. I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable lending somebody that money again if I just lent them that much money and they just lost the bike and they didn't pay me back the first amount of money that I lent them. So I'm like, okay. But I didn't know what else to do because I'm like, I can't make the money to pay her back. And at the time I was running 2 companies. So I had to pay for those expenses. So I called up my sister and I'm like, hey, sister, who I love very much. I was like, so I got my bike stolen. Do you think that you could lend me some money again to buy another bike? And it's one of those things where it's weird because I felt very comfortable asking her, but I felt like that was the best option to do because I'm like, okay, she still needs to be paid back for the money that she lent me. And if I work on a regular bike, it'll take forever to make that kind of money to pay her back. Plus, I would have to work all day, every day, and my body just wouldn't be able to take doing that. So I'm like, okay, the best option is to see if she can loan me the money to do and go out and buy another bike, right? So she loaned me the money again before I paid her back the first amount, right? So I got the bike, went to the store. This was before they had the real souped up bike. So it was a really cheap electric bike, but it was $4,000. Everything was good, right? So I'm working. I paid her back the first amount, right? Now, the second time I borrowed money from her, she had gave me a, what was it called? It was like a contract that we had, and it was $3,000. I don't know if it was 4, because I remember it was 3 for 5. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so my nephew had said, okay, I will lend you $3,000, but you have to pay me back $5,000, right? Now, in my head, that seems normal. I'm like, oh, okay, that's I didn't really care because I know if I made the money, but other people probably trying to tell me oh no, that's way too much. You can't pay back somebody $5,000 and they lent you $3,000. I don't know what the percentage is. Do you know what the percentage is on that? Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is. Yeah, because
your mother and your father was not happy
I think my uncle wasn't. Everybody was highly upset. They were like, "What do you mean she loaned you $3,000, you'll pay back $5,000? That's crazy. That's more than 60%, right? I think that's close to 60%. It's almost 100. It's 66%, I think. Right? Interest. If you would think about you got a credit card and you got to pay 66% interest on your car or your house or anything like that, right? But I was at a point where I'm like, I don't care if I'm going to make the money back. So if I can pay her back the money that she loaned me, then I can actually take that money that I'm making after that and put it into my own account. 66? Yeah. Right.
Everybody was all upset. I was like,
I didn't
but
even
he
know
agreed to this
I
contract.
didn't know
So
this.
what's the problem?
Right. I was like, in my head,
It was
I'm
like,
like,
you can't do that. That's your brother. I was like, he agreed, so we're doing it. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
at that point, I didn't, in my
Lord
head,
Shark.
I'm like, oh, it's right there. 3 for 5 is 3 and 5. They close together in numbers. I'm like, I can just pay an extra $2,000 on top of the 3. That's nothing. I'm like, whatever.
And I wasn't gonna spend it anyway. I was like, I'ma hold it.
Right? So I'm like, everything's cool. I'm like, I bet. So she lent me the money, and I had no problem paying her back the 5. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna work because, like I said before, to me it's an investment. If I pay her back 5, put some numbers out. If I was working on my regular bike, I might make at that point like $80 to $110 a day. Right? When I got the electric bike, I was making $300, $500 a day. So I'm like, I can pay her back quickly and still make that money after I pay her back, and then I can just keep that money, build on top of it, whatever I need to do for myself. So I'm like, it's a good investment for me. I'll pay the $2,000, I'll be fine. So I worked, and then I paid her back, right? And I had paid her back, the $5,000, right? Might have been like a week or two late, but I think I definitely paid you back. So now the timeline for this, I don't really remember exactly how this happened, but my bike got stolen again, right? This is it got stolen the second time, right?
This was all like in the same year.
Yeah. And then honestly,
I
probably
didn't
around
even
September.
know. Right, I didn't even know I had that kind of money. After I started adding, I was like, "What? Wait a minute! How I gave out all this money in a year?"
It was getting crazy.
Woo.
It was getting really crazy. I feel like
okay.
it was a lot of money. But the thing with me was, I felt that was more important than me asking to borrow money was the fact that I paid her back, because I'm like, okay, it builds credibility that like if I'm going to borrow a large amount of money, I'm still going to be able to pay it back. So even if my bike got stolen again, which even if my bike got stolen again and she had to loan me money, she can go, okay, he paid me back the money already. So I know he's going to try and pay me back, as opposed to, you owe me money from before, 2 times your bike got stolen, you never pay me back, you never pay me back ever, I'm not loaning you money again. So I'm like, okay, to me it's more important to build the credibility of paying her back before I even put money into my business, because I'm like, I don't need to borrow money again for an emergency. It'd be better to have her feel comfortable loaning me money. So bike got stolen the second time, right? And I'm trying to remember where I was the second. Yeah, so the second time it got stolen, right? This is how it happened. In my mind, I thought that if you technically it's like a key, you take the key off the bike, then it wouldn't work. That's what I thought. I'm like, you can't really use the bike once you take that off. So I went into a restaurant, and I was in there maybe 2-3 minutes. I walked inside to get the order for the restaurant. I want to be as efficient as possible. So I'm like, if I don't have to lock my bike, then I can save that time to get back on the bike and just go to the next order. So I just take the key off. I'm like, you can't run off with the bike because it's heavy, so you can't just start running with it. And you can't use the electric part either. So I'm like, I could catch you if I see you. I'm not in there for a long time. That's what I'm thinking, right? So I go inside. Hey, I'm getting order number 2853, whatever. All right, cool. Give me the bag. Go outside. The bike is gone. And I'm like, there's no way the bike could be going that fast. If I'm looking down the block, I don't see nobody. Look this way. I ran down this block. I looked down the corner. He's not there. Ran around the other block. Looked around the corner. Nobody's there. So I'm like, somebody had to have put my bike in the car. And that never crossed my mind. Like, oh, they would just pick the bike up and throw it in a van. And I honestly believe that the person was sitting in front of the place with the bike. But I didn't know that. I think they took the bike, put it in the van, just closed the door, and was sitting there. So when I ran down the street, they're like, oh, that must be his bike. And they just stayed there until I left, and then they just drove. That's what I think happened, because there's no way they could have gotten a bike away that fast. So that time, like I said, this time I might need some help with. After the second bike had gotten stolen, and I paid you back the $5,000, I remember that. No, I think.
Didn't they find that one though? Because you reported the second one, right?
Nah, that was the. that was the third one I got stolen.
Third one. Got it.
The third one got
2
stolen.
times the charm, man. Like,
Yeah, that one is the one that I got back.
You got that.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing this story up is because I want to kind of give my sister's character, because even with that 3 for 5 thing, I don't remember what the context was, but you gave me that money back. Do you remember what that context was? Because I had paid her $5,000 for borrowing 3. But for some reason you gave me $2,000. Oh, you loaned me $2,000. I had to pay you back. That's what happened. So technically, the money that I actually gave her, she gave it back to me without me, having to pay her back. So it's just kind of like, she could have spent that money. She could have said, "Oh, I'm not holding it. I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna give it back to you." So like I said, that's why my sister is like my, my rock or whatever you want to call it. So that's intro to.
I ain't coming here to get emotional.
Yeah, I'm trying to hold it in.
Right.
So,
see.
but yes, that's my sister Neffy. So, we will start today's podcast, and it was a topic that you wanted to talk about today. Do you remember the topic that you talk about?
I want to talk about just how interested should you be in your partner's interests.
Okay.
That's one of the topics I had in mind.
Oh, do you have an example of this that you're talking about? Because, yeah, what examples do you have?
So an example might be movies.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in movies,
Mm-hmm.
how interested should you be in your partner liking movies?
Mm-hmm.
Also maybe TV shows. People seem to watch TV shows, sports. How interested should you be in your partner's interests?
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that?
For me personally, I definitely think you should be interested in your partner's interests. I think it depends, and I also think it depends on how much the person cares about that interest. So, like for me, like I love basketball, right? And I love basketball like all the way up here, right? So I don't expect Melissa to be up here with me with basketball. I expect her to know, okay, I know that he really cares about basketball, so maybe I'll come and record the game, or I'll like take pictures of the game, or like if he's talking about it, I'll be interested in it. But I don't expect her to be like in the house being like, okay, so LeBron scores 35 points a game, and then back in 1955 when this team won the NBA championship, the person was I don't expect her to do that. But I do expect her to understand that since I love basketball that much, she should have interest in it. But if it's something like, let me think, something that I would probably consider as small. Something small that I would like. If you think that small. I'm gonna go with my hair. Go interest in my hair. Like I don't care much about my hair that I feel like she should have to be as involved with what I do with my hair. Like I don't feel like she should be thinking, okay, I want Donovan's hair to be like this. I wouldn't be annoyed with her if she didn't care much about my hair. Right? So like if I came in the house and she had bought cotton sheets, I wouldn't be like, Melissa, why'd you buy cotton sheets? What's wrong with you? You know my hair needs to be like this, because every time I wouldn't be like that because I don't care that much about it. So I think you got to take into account how much does the other person care about that thing. Like you watching Naruto, which you guys have watched. So I really like Naruto, not like basketball. So it's fun for us to watch it together. Like I enjoy us watching it together. But I would rather her know more about basketball than Naruto. It's cool. But if she was really into basketball more than Naruto, I would be like, because that's my heart. I'd be like, damn, like, oh, I feel that, like you actually did something, like you went and researched basketball. Like it would feel different to me because I care that much about it. If she went and researched Naruto, I'd be like, that's cool, and I might brag, oh yeah, my girlfriend, she like, she wants Naruto, she whatever. But if she was like looking up basketball stuff, it would definitely affect me a lot more. So that's what I think. You making a face, mostly.
Oh, let's not listen to this.
Okay. What do you think about that?
Interested in, like you said, for me it's soccer.
Mm-hmm.
That's my number one thing. I would never expect you to go and research, and if you did, I would always appreciate it. But for me, I appreciate more the experience of watching it with me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to know who's playing that well or anything. It's just getting an understanding of what's happening and what you're looking at. And if you don't know, you ask. You try to learn. The worth of attempting is what matters.
Right.
Like you said, I'm not going to expect you to understand statistics from 94, 2002, who won the World Cup. Never.
Right.
But if you came and said something, I'll be like, mouth dropped.
Right.
Like, hey, I'll bring you flowers. What do you need?
Right. Hey, exactly. That's how I would feel. I'll be like, wow, you actually went out. That's how I would feel. I'll be like, wow, you actually went out and researched something that you know is dear to my heart. As opposed to, I would be cool if it was something else, like a TV show. It'd be nice. But when you do that basketball thing, it's like, oh, wow. Like, where you want to go today? What you want to do? You want to do that? Let's go. Come on, let's go do that. But do you feel the same way about that?
No.
Why do you not feel that same way?
Because I just feel like your interest.
For you, like a,
Probably cat hair.
yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I think it might from your shirt. Or your mask. I don't know. Your shirt. But yeah. So why do you disagree with that?
I just kind of feel like your interest should be your interest, and if somebody wants to show more interest in your interest, then like let them be the one to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like whatever you have an interest in, you should find others who have that interest in your interest, especially if it's, as you stated, all the way up here.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like that's a lot.
But see, okay, so this is my thing. For me personally, and I'm speaking to Melissa, I think she would be. Let me ask you: would you be uncomfortable if I found my interest in basketball with another female? If we were going to the park?
Yes, 100%.
Would you be okay?
Doesn't have to be a female.
Yeah, like,
What you-
I'm
What do you
referring
think's gonna
to.
happen?
Right, like right. When
I'm
Most of the time
referring
it does.
to if it's another male is what I'm. The example that comes to mind. Granted, I personally don't have a problem if it's a female. Melissa may have a problem with that.
100%.
100%.
Okay.
However, me, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So you're saying your significant other was going to watch soccer with females regularly? You'd be okay with that?
Yes.
That's very surprising to me.
I would have to vet the female, but at the end of it, I'm fine with that. Because, like I said, I feel like you should enjoy your interests with other people who enjoy it just as much as you do. So that I don't feel pressured to try and like your interests all the way up here.
Okay.
Because I could try to like your interests, like, well, right here.
Yeah.
But to come all the way up here, it's kind of...
But see, that's the thing.
It may happen, it may not happen.
I don't think you should ever try to go up there though. And I don't think, because even for
But I
me,
feel pressured to try and go up there.
I don't think anybody, from my experience and from what he just said, I don't think anybody wants you to have. Yeah, we don't, because for us, he's him soccer, me basketball. I've been playing basketball my whole entire life, so I can't expect her to have the same feelings about that I have. But the interest that can start today or tomorrow. It doesn't have, and it can compensate for years of not playing basketball. Like if I'm sitting here watching a game, she's like, "Damn, LeBron triple double today." I'd be like, "How you know what a triple double is? Like what you?" She's like, "Yeah, I was looking it up and I found out that LeBron." And something just like that. That one little thing could compensate for like 2 or 3 years of her not playing. But like something like as small as that. Like, oh, you really care to look it up to try and find out about it. I would expect you to like compete with me on how much basketball you know, or who is the better. You don't have to do that. If you could, that's cool. I don't expect that. I don't think he would expect that either. If it's like, oh, I need you to be right here with me when it comes to my passion. I don't think that's the case.
But now, are you looking for your significant other to watch a game, whole game, playoffs, when your team is on?
So, me personally, I'm not sure how to put this. My personality is not really to ask her to watch a game with me. That wouldn't be something I would do, right? So we only have one TV here, so it's not really like if the TV's on basketball, then we just get to watch. She might be on her laptop, but I wouldn't be like you gotta watch this game. I wouldn't do that, right? But I would want her to be interested in wanting to watch the basketball game. That's what I would want, but I wouldn't ask her to do that. I would just be like, okay, I appreciate that you did it, and I think it would help the relationship because I'm like, okay, she's showing interest in something that I like to do. So I'm curious, what is an interest that you like, that you're really passionate about?
Travel.
Okay, so would you say you're passionate about traveling?
To a certain extent.
Do you think you're as passionate as she is about traveling?
Heck no.
So wait, when you say you're passionate, like, what do you mean by passionate about traveling? What does that consist of? Why do you say that's your passion?
Because it's just exciting to plan a trip, to go on a trip, to execute the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's local or international. I just want to go someplace.
Okay.
And like I said, I personally like the idea of just putting a trip together.
Let me ask you this. If he decided, you know what, you come home one day, right? And he's like, listen, we're going here. Itinerary done. It's paid for.
Don't make me cry. That is something I've always wanted to like.
We got events when we get there. We already got it planned out. The hotel's already paid for. We're good, right? Now, he don't have to do that every time they go traveling, right? But every once in a while, if he did that, you'd be like...
I feel a little tear come. You just...
See? Like, that's something that you would like. And I think it's equivalent to to soccer or
I
basketball.
water.
I think he said water. This kind of dry. But I think. Hold on.
That was
The
deep.
water break.
That's not a water break. That's like down in
Being
the.
dehydrated. And I had to stop early because I didn't want to drink the whole bottle, so I just took a.
Good idea.
But yeah, so I think that is like that would be the equivalent to soccer or basketball, where it's like, okay, he wouldn't do it every time. Where it's like, okay, now I'm the travel person, like I'm the travel guy. Every time we go somewhere, I'm planning every trip because that's not his passion. But I think you would appreciate it a lot because once you guys get there and you're like, oh, I ain't had to plan nothing. This is cool. I enjoyed it. So next time you go, you're gonna have a lot more fun. I think the relationship will be better because now you be thinking about that. You have that one memory, like, oh, okay, he did this. Maybe every 5, 6 trips. I don't know how often you travel, but however many it will be, some arbitrary number. You just think like, oh, he planned this trip out. That was kind of cool. And then in his mind, if you would bring up a soccer thing, right? It'd be like he would think, yeah, when I was watching a game and she came in and she was like maybe wearing the person's jersey, or she was telling me stats about this, or she asked me, hey, are you watching the I don't know soccer team, so are you watching the USA versus the Brazil game today? I feel like he'd be like, how you know that game was today? And you'd be like, oh, well, I was just looking it up to see what the championship game is at. I want to know if you want to go or watch the game or go whatever. And he'd be like, you want to go? And you don't even have to. Once you do that small thing, I think he would do everything else. It's just the fact that you show the interest. Because I feel like for me personally, the reason for Melissa that I don't want to tell her to watch basketball is because it's one of those things that because I'm passionate about it, I would be hurt if I'm like, watch this game with me. And I force her to watch the game and she's not enjoying it. But if she's going out and then trying to watch the game on her own, I feel less inclined to pressure to do it because I'm like, oh, she's showing interest in it. So now we can kind of enjoy it together as opposed to me being like, no, you're going to watch this game with me and you're going to enjoy it while I watch it and you better look like you enjoy it. And I feel like that's for me personally. That's what I don't want to force her to do it because, like I said, I would be hurt that she doesn't enjoy the game. So I'm like, I love this so much. How do you not enjoy it that much? But if she just show a little bit of interest, I'm like, oh yeah, now I'm going. Now I'm like, listen, we can do this, and I can be talking about stuff on the screen, and she could be like, okay, yeah, that's it. So I think for me personally, I think that's why it would be important to have a little bit of interest in the person's thing. I won't say a little bit to show. Maybe like make an objective attempt at trying to show that you're interested in the other person's interest. And I think that trying to have them go out and do it with somebody else takes away from your relationship.
Now, the reason why I say, and I asked the question about level of interest, because I agree with everything that you've said.
Mm-hmm.
But in regards to, let's say, with basketball, I feel like level of interest would be watching a game with you, or maybe watching when your team is playing is like a level of interest.
Okay.
But now, if you ask me to watch the whole season with you, to me that's excessive.
I think that's kind of high. I think that's a lot.
And now, this person who I'm referring to, who likes soccer,
Yes.
watches not just his team. He watches other teams.
Okay.
He watches other leagues. Because apparently there's leagues.
Okay. I'm not familiar with soccer. So
Right.
I'm not-
I could tell you some things.
Oh, okay.
So yes, there's different leagues.
Okay. Is that like rugby almost? Is it similar to rugby? So they have different like leagues and stuff. And
Each country have their own NBA.
And that's considered, and each one will be a league, like each NBA in each country will be a league?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there like a world league that everybody just plays into?
That would be considered the Olympics, or for soccer would be like the World Cup.
Okay.
So it'd be like the NBA World Championship they have, the IBA, I don't.
So wait, if the USA is playing, who do they play against? Like what league are they in?
No, that's so. They see how in basketball you have like the Olympics and you have like the Pan American game or whatever, like, and then you have the World Championship. So you have those three. So it'll be similar in soccer. You'll have the World Cup. You have the continent's own tournament.
Okay.
And then you have like qualification to the World Cup. or the Olympics, something like that.
And the U.S. can wind up playing in all three.
So okay, so to me in my brain, when I think of a league, it's like, okay, there's multiple teams in America.
Yeah, so that's NBA league, but what I'm referring to is international tournament. We're not on a local level. A national tournament will be like the NBA, which each city has their own team.
Okay. So like they own soccer team.
Which so you have like
which he watches as
which
well.
what like Houston Rockets, and you have Lakers and New York Knicks. That would be a league.
So then they play each other.
They play each other, and then that's it. That's where it ends.
And then does the person who's the best from those cities?
That's it. Be the tournament. Like by when they're done, whoever wins the tournament, whatever wins. It'll be like that's the championship. Be the NBA.
I'm trying to understand. You say he watches all.
So
of them.
what she's saying is that
like
I
you
watch.
said, they have the ones that you play stateside.
Okay.
Like you said, they have the ones that come from the different states. They have their own teams.
Mm-hmm.
They play. That's like a league.
Okay.
Then you have, from a country perspective, which would be USA, they play against other countries.
Okay.
Now, those have different leagues that they can play in. So they can play in one that is North America League. They can play in one that is, like you said, World Cup League. So now that's people from different parts of the world that are playing. And then they may have, they can now enter into somebody else's league. So they can enter into the South America League and play there because they're the USA, they're allowed to play everywhere.
That's not.
So they play in more than one league.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
In addition, he'll watch other soccer teams play. So there's multiple leagues that he'll watch play. Then, as he said, there might be the World Cup or they might be playing the Olympics. He'll watch those as well. And he doesn't just watch the male play. He watches the females play too.
You gotta support all the way.
So there's a lot of games going on.
That's a lot.
See that there's.
And how do you watch all of those games when they might be either playing all at the same time
I don't know.
or different times of the day?
I don't know.
He records them.
Or
So
stream them now.
therefore, you don't miss a game. So I think the level of interest is way higher than here.
Yeah. My basketball's here, and that's up there.
No, it's higher than higher than the ceiling.
That's high.
It's higher than the ceiling.
So to the NBA level is every year.
Okay.
So you'll have let's just use the MLS.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
That's every year. The international tournaments, they're like 4 years, every 2 years. So they don't come in often.
Okay.
So that's where it gives it a level of importance that's different. So it's like the next World Cup is not 2022. United States didn't qualify for the last one. So it's like a...
Hold on one second.
It stopped recording?
I didn't record.
You never pressed record.
I never pressed record, Melissa.
I asked you like 10 times.
You did, and I didn't press it. That's the first time that's ever
So
happened.
your whole intro, you didn't have it.
I mean, we have 2 audio, so it's gonna be on there. It just won't sound as good as
Excuse me.
like when it's from here.
I see.
But yeah, but but it's fine. Like I said, we have other audio. I can just turn it up. So we've recorded from just a pixel before, so this is new. But yeah, okay,
Fancy.
okay. So I'm listening.
But to simplify it, it's just these games, for me anyway, these games they're rare. They don't come in often. They're like every 4 years. The World Cup, CONCACAF, whatever, is like every 2 years. South American is like every 4 years. So you don't get them all the time. There's like these huge gaps in between. So when they happen, they're a big deal for everyone. So like the NBA was like, you get a playoff every year. No, that's it. But it doesn't happen. So that's why the level of interest is like, hey, this is happening. The next time I'm going to see this, I'm going to be 40 the next time this has happened. So if you're experiencing this, it's a big chapter in your life in a sense because you don't know what's going to happen. So, and usually if whoever wins, doesn't matter, whoever wins, like the next time that happened, you won't know. Like I'll give you an example. The United States didn't qualify for the last World Cup. So I have to wait 8 years before I'm going to see that team at the World Cup again. So that importance of like, hey, you experienced this with me. I'm never going to see this again.
Okay.
I may not see this again because you're not guaranteed. You have to make it. It's like the Olympics. You see Usain Bolt play in 2. You don't know if he qualifies for the next Olympic. That's it. It's done.
Do you not see the USA play in other games leading up to that 8th year?
You will see like the exhibition games, like who they play. Like those games are like you get probably 8 games throughout the year, because that like everybody has their own job. Like they go play at like their state team or their club as they call them. But you get like 8 game or 10 game for the year. That's it. So national or club level, I don't expect you to be all up on it. Never. Because this is never gonna happen.
This is my question. What do you feel the expectation is for soccer for you? Like,
What do you mean? What's the expectation?
Like, what do you feel the expectation is?
I feel like I'm supposed to be involved heavily, and I personally just want to watch a game if I'm around. And personally, I like seeing the games live.
Okay.
So if I had the option, I would prefer to see them more in person. But he prefers to watch them in-house.
You prefer to watch them in-house?
The cost is too much for out.
I mean, I feel like y'all are both very like financially savvy people, so I feel like
I don't mind the cost.
But I feel like y'all both like
I think it has to do more with the fact that he just prefers to watch it in-house. So therefore, that kind of
You feel like that's true?
takes away.
No, I do enjoy watching at home. Like if it's raining or it's cold, I don't really want to be outside watching a game. No, it's not like because those games are. But these games, like I'll give you an example. Recently they had the Copa America in the United States. It's because the only reason that happened is because it was 100-year of the tournament.
Yeah, but what is it called?
The Copa America. It's supposed to be in South America. It's a strictly South American tournament. But they did it in the States because they wanted, because it was a big deal. They wanted everybody involved. One game cost a trip. I'm talking about hotel. And that's without booking anything. Like the cost of one game costs that. So exactly. And you can't pay for all these games.
I feel like that's a lot. I mean, yeah.
I'm not trying to see all the games. 1 or 2 is fine. Like, why do you have to see all the games?
I still think that's a lot for one game, personally.
And I even like the idea of watching it like in the bar. I like that setting with the food and drinks and all that.
Like
But
in
it's
in the bar of the place where the game is being held, or like in a bar.
When you go to a restaurant and they have the TV.
But
screen.
soccer games are like 3 hours.
No. What was it, an hour and a half?
They should have an hour and a half.
Then I thought it was like 3. They're not like 3 hours. I don't know. Game might be. I used to watch some soccer. I thought it was like 3 hours.
That's what the first hour you watch is just the way like they do pre-games and they just talk your ears.
It was an hour and a half for a soccer game. That's crazy. I had no idea.
So it's an hour and a half.
Each half is 45 minutes, so you get like 150, like an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
But each game, no,
I had no idea.
because the clock doesn't stop; it just keeps going.
Sheesh. So yeah, well, I mean, so yeah. In my head, I'm thinking if it's 3 hours, then you can't sit in a bar for 3 hours. That's crazy. But if it's an hour and a half, hour and 45.
Yeah.
But I personally don't like. I wouldn't want to watch the soccer. I don't know. I've never watched a game in a bar. I don't know what the environment is like.
It depends.
I think it's nice because it's fun because, like I said, if you have the 2 opposing teams there, you got to go to one where it's like that's a bar where is for sports.
Yeah.
So you know the people that's coming there, they came there to watch the game. They might be having on their jerseys, everybody talking trash, and people are like comparing stats and you eating and drinking. Like I like the environment. Everybody screaming and carrying on. Oh, you know,
Right, so
we scored
that's
on
my
you
question.
or whatever.
What do you like about soccer?
I like the experience of it, the emotional attachment to it, the play, because just the sport itself is a beautiful sport to watch.
You argue about soccer?
No,
Yes, he does.
I don't.
Who does he argue with? You?
No, he can't. He argues with people who are knowledgeable about soccer.
No, I don't.
Because the reason I'm asking, because I'm
Yes,
like,
he does.
I feel like what you want from soccer, it sounds like you want, like you said, you want the energy of the soccer, like people are screaming and jumping. You said you want to go
that
to the
energy.
actual arena and watch or the stadium and watch them play.
Yes.
But I'm like, I feel like you don't really.
I don't mind either or. I don't mind either or.
I feel like you prefer like to be able to enjoy the game,
Right.
as opposed to where I feel like you are like you want the atmosphere
Yes.
of the game that you are more enjoyable.
It's almost like when girls go to watch this. What is it? Super Bowl. You go to a Super Bowl party.
Wait, so do you know about soccer? Like.
And what?
Like the technical aspect of soccer? Because I feel like
I'm still learning.
I'm gonna tell you why. I asked you that question, right? So if I'm watching basketball with Melissa, right, there are very small nuances of things that happen on the court that she won't see because she doesn't play basketball. So I'd be like, oh my God, did you see the way he pump fake, went between his legs, spin off his left pivot foot? And did you see that? And she's watching the guy shoot the ball in the air.
Right.
Like that's all she saw was the ball was in his hand and then it went up in the air.
Right.
So so she's not as in tune on a nuanced level to see the small things.
Right.
So I feel like because he
And that's
watches
the
soccer,
same thing that happens. With
Right.
him. Like he'll ask me a question or whatever, and I'm like, "You mean the guy that had on the white shorts or the guy that had the blue shorts? What are you talking about?" Because like I said, what we're learning now is that we'll watch something and we're not watching it with the same lens. And I feel like now we're starting to talk about that.
Yeah.
And understand how each other watches something, because
Right.
I feel like that's going to be important for our communication. I need to understand what it is that you're watching or how you're watching something so I can probably be more in tune and share in your interests. When I watch something, I look at colors. I'm more from a fashion standpoint when I look at something. So it doesn't matter what it is. If I'm watching soccer, I'm like, oh, I like this uniform. It looks different from the last uniform they had on. Or I notice, oh, this is their away game uniform because it's white versus the last time I saw them play, it was blue. Or their colors, the stitching is different. Or I notice as well, he explained to me that on the front of the jersey, they have stars on the front. That goes based off of how many times that they've won, the World Cup? How many times they've won the World Cup. So I'll notice, oh, okay, this team has only 2 stars, or they don't have no stars, so they losers. They ain't win the World Cup. So that's the things that I look at. Or I might look at their hairstyles. I'm like, he had blonde tips the last time I saw him. Now he don't have no tips in his hair. He cut it all off.
Okay.
That's what I look at when I watch the game.
This is why I think that happens. And then I don't know, how long did you play soccer for growing up?
When I was a kid.
Like, so you still play now?
I don't play any teams though, but obviously, of course.
The reason I'm asking is because, like I said earlier, it comes to nuance where I feel like she can't see the nuance of it. So when she's watching it, you're right. So she can't. So it would be the equivalent of me going, I want to go on a trip to Hawaii because they have water. And you would look at me like I was crazy. You'd be like, what do you mean they have water? And be like, well, I looked at this picture. They got water there. Let's go to Hawaii. Right? And you would be like, that's not a reason to go somewhere, because you would be able to go, I don't know where you want to travel to. You'll be able to say, I like this place for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. So, with what? We'll look at the picture or something and be
like I can tell you why I want to go to a location like this reason and that reason, because I take the effort.
Agree with that?
Not to the same detail. I believe he can. But like you said, the way in which you probably would explain it is going to be different.
Yeah.
And that to me is where the whole perspective and lens and maybe just your thought process about things is going to be different.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about that now, because Melissa came to, I went to like a little basketball tournament, I guess, the other day, and she took some pictures, right? And I was showing her the stuff. Like, oh, look at how when I jab step this way, his foot gonna open up for the pit. Like, I'm showing her these things, right? So I think that it's how can I put this? Because I'm trying to figure out, even within me and her relationship, how I can close the gap between what she doesn't know about the sport without having to bring her all the way to, like, you got to join the basketball team because obviously you need to learn these things. Like, I need you to know how to jab step and reverse pivot, and
this
I need you to do that.
Why I explain that you have to once you understand how somebody thinks,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier for you to speak their language and teach
Okay.
them in that way. And that's the part that we conflict on, because he has this idea that, well, why can't you just learn it the way I'm teaching you? And it's like, I probably could, but guess what? It's going to take longer. If I'm telling you that I learn through colors and shapes or through fashion, you have to be able to speak in that way for me to get what it is that you're talking about. So similar, if you're talking about basketball or whatever, trying to think of how I would try to get that thought across.
This is. I feel like it's very.
That would be tricky.
But what's your?
that's what you. I feel like that's what you have to do in order for you to communicate. Because if I don't speak in the way that you speak, it's going to be very hard for us to try and communicate in the same manner. You have to be able to translate something in the way in which I receive information.
Okay, but this is how I'm picking it up, right? That you want the sport to be explained in colors, right? Whether that's an example or not. And he's explaining it in numbers, right?
Okay.
And I feel like a better comparison would be of him explaining numbers like, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you would want. And he's explaining it in the calculus. So I'm thinking if I'm watching basketball with Melissa, right, and I wanted to tell her or show her something about basketball, for her to understand it, to get her to, like I said, close that gap earlier, I might go something that's very, very broad. Like most players only go to the right side of the court because they're not left-handed. So then, like, that's something that we could now both talk about when we watch the sport. So now it kind of closes that nuanced gap. So when you're watching it, you're looking for that small thing as opposed to just watching it as like a big picture. Because if you watch it as a big picture, you won't see anything. And that's why I think you need the energy of everything else around it, because you don't know what's going on the screen. You're like, all right, I see somebody running with the ball. Did he score? Everybody screaming. All right, we all screaming. And as opposed to if he's watching it, he's like, did you see how he scored that? Did you see what he had to do to get from here to over there? That was crazy. But you didn't see that. But then when he looks at you and goes, yo, that was crazy. And you're like, yes, that was wow. The way he did that must have been, yeah. And I feel like that's what happens. But I think if he explained it like, if you were explaining it, if you were teaching somebody soccer, like how old were you first started playing soccer?
I don't know, actually. Probably 2, 3.
Yeah, jeez. I was gonna say, what would you tell somebody at that age about soccer? Because I feel like that's where it would have to, like, that's what you have to tell her in soccer. You have to be like
You wouldn't tell them anything. Just tell them kick. So you will experience it with.
So I was asking, like, when did you start learning soccer? Like, when did you start learning, like, okay, do this? 'Cause I tried to say last week, for me, soccer, I kicked the ball with my foot. They were like, no. I said, I'm not doing this no more. So I didn't get to learn the technical side of soccer. So when I watch soccer, I'm kind of like, I don't understand soccer at all. I see somebody kick the ball over somebody's head, and I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't get it. I have no idea. But I know there's something happening underneath that I just can't see. But I feel like to get to that point, there had to be steps that go, okay, you only kick the ball to this person because of this or whatever the case might be. So I don't know what those kind of things be.
So typically when you're learning the technical, unless you have a coach that's like talks too much, usually they'll like, oh, okay, you did great, you kick this way. Try kicking it that way and see what happens. Okay. And then you kick it. And you're like, huh. Or even if it doesn't click, I'll be like, yeah, just keep trying it like that. And then as your comprehension starts kicking, you're like, oh, I see why I'm kicking it like this. It makes more sense this way. It's the same thing like if you're playing basketball, they're like, when you go in for the layup, put it on the square or whatever for the ball to go in. Why? Just try it that way. You'll see what happens. And then you're like, oh, okay, I see that the reflex off the backboard goes into the net. That makes sense now. But it's when you experience it, you get it. So you can't, obviously, if you don't play the sport, you're not gonna get all that information. But to learn something that you don't know, if you either ask a certain question or if the person tells you something, you're like, okay, I didn't catch it the first time. When it happens again, show it to me so that way I can see what it is. then you'll start having a better understanding of what you're watching or whatever your partner is showing you. Because there are things that you just like you said, you're not gonna know. But if they pointed it out and you pay attention to it may take like 10,000 times.
Yeah.
But click, because you're like, you keep pointing it out again and again and again and again.
I agree with that. 'Cause that's what I'm thinking now. I'm like, it's gonna take a lot of times for a person to know those small things, and I'm wondering if it would be better, like in a relationship, like I'm gonna come back to that point. Because for a relationship, for me, I feel like the best ones are the ones that people grow like this, and they grow with something. So like, if you guys were talking about soccer, the growth of her knowledge in soccer, I think, helps the relationship, because now you guys were, there was a point where you guys were at, she doesn't know anything about soccer. Like, it's zero soccer knowledge at all, to where now you guys are actually having conversations about soccer, where it's not, like I said, you're not talking to an expert, but you can actually have a normal conversation with her about soccer. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like you said, it'd have to be like, okay, you see how he just did that thing? That was crazy. And it'd have to just be like one thing, like,
Correct.
yeah, like all the time.
that
Like, it'd be
one thing.
one thing that you just explained all the time. Do you know anything about soccer technically? Like, when they are playing? Other than like their color?
Kind of.
Like what?
I said, I guess.
What's
I know
like?
there's certain terms that he'll talk about, and so I try to pick out if that's what actually happened
Uh-huh.
in the game.
Like what though?
He'll talk about either offside or goal.
Goal doesn't
or-
count. That doesn't count as a term.
It does count. Listen, some people may not know. You just see people screaming and jumping around.
That doesn't count. I feel like
Or
that is.
I'm learning when things.
say okay.
Yeah, it's like
If you
it's only
say
one.
so.
It's only one point in the whole game.
No,
That's putting the ball.
because guess what?
Uh-huh.
In regards to a goal, sometimes you thought it went in, but it didn't. So everybody's screaming, but then you saw it actually didn't go into the net when they do a slow mo. So you gotta know if it was a goal or not. Then
Okay.
I've also been learning what constitutes as a foul,
Okay.
and that there's yellow cards and red cards. You have to get, what is it, 3 yellow cards? 2 yellows.
Uh-huh.
And then you out. And if you get a red, then
It's like getting 2
you're
technicals,
definitely out.
and then you're out the game,
Yeah.
and then I think you get suspended for the next one too, or something like that.
The red one, I think you get suspended from the game. And then you gotta get 2 yellow cards that can lead up to a red card.
Uh-huh.
And the goalies have big yellow mittens. Sometimes they're green,
Uh-huh.
different colors. They have big yellow mittens on that the
Yeah.
other players don't have. So that's how I know that's the goalie.
Uh-huh. Not the guy just standing in front of the goal.
I know.
That's See-
Sometimes he's not in front of the goal.
So okay, this is
And if you wind up, if a guy, if somebody who gets a red card, they get taken out of the game, and you're not allowed to bring another player back in, so you can wind up having uneven amount of people on the field, and that's why the goalie would wind up having to possibly come away from the goal, because now he has to help out the team because it's uneven.
okay.
So
So
I know that
that's
too.
okay. So that is, I feel like that's more rule based than it is technical based, and I think it's. I feel like that comes after. I don't think that's the first step of learning the sport. Is learning the rules. I feel like because, like, okay. If I'm watching like basketball, right? You know who James Harden is? He has the big
Heard
beard.
of him.
He has the beard.
Yes.
Okay, so there's some basketball knowledge right here. Okay, so he does this thing where people say that he travels, right? Which is right? Everybody says this, that he travels, which is taking 3 steps. You're only supposed to take 2 steps, right? But the rules say that your first step is a gather step. So after you gather, you can take 2 steps after that. So technically, if you bounce the ball, that doesn't count as a step. If you bounce it and hold it and take 2 steps, it's not travel, right? Now, that's the rules of the game. So I just explained the rules to you. Now, if I told you to watch 100 different possessions, I don't think you would know which one of those possessions was him doing it and which one was him not doing it. Because there are people who are in the NBA who still don't know if he's traveling or not. So it's like you can't really, I don't think I could explain that to you. But like, if I said, okay, let me think of something that's...
So
Huh?
is he traveling?
know that about the gathering step. I knew they were complaining about it, but I didn't realize this.
it's weird because it doesn't go back to the rules, and this is where it blends the rules and playing the game. Because if you know how to play basketball and you watch it, you'll go, that's a travel. Just by look, you can just look at it and feel like you can't do certain movements without traveling. You just can't do them. So he kind of toes that line. So example, like I said, gather step. If you bounce the ball and you hold it, right? If you bounce the ball and do a move, it's not a travel, right? If you bounce the ball, hold it, and then do 2 steps, that's a travel. It's very hard to determine if you're holding the ball after you dribble it or if you're gathering the ball to do 2 steps. And the only reason I'm explaining this is because it's one of those situations where it's very hard to be able to just to know the rules of something and then be able to watch the game and be like, okay, that was a travel or that was a foul or something like that. So if I'm thinking about for Melissa, something I'll tell her in basketball that I think would be mad simple would be like, I'm thinking maybe, I think that's still too. Like I said, I will go with the right hand thing. I would say something that's simple like that. Like, this player is left-handed. He's only gonna go to his left, right? I would say something like that. So now she can see, like, oh wow, I never know. Like, cause now if I think it takes the sport from being like this big thing to being like, oh wow, I never noticed that he's only going to the left side of the court. Why is he doing that? And then now you can see the comparison, like, oh, everybody else is going to the right side of the court, and this guy keeps going to the left. Why don't they stop him? So now if we're watching the game, she'll be like, why he going left? Somebody stop him. He's doing the same thing every time, right? And then I'll be like, exactly. I feel like that would make it for like, okay, she doesn't know a lot about basketball, but because she can identify something that's very simple like that she can see, we can have that kind of connection about it. And I think that would help if we were watching basketball. But if it comes to like rules, I feel like that would be harder to like try and explain to somebody who's like doesn't really know the sport.
Of course, you don't expect somebody to know the rules. Even the people who watch their own sport don't know the rules because the referees, the rules change every year and things like that. So you don't rely on the rules for it. You rely on the experience.
Speaking of refs, the referees have to know the languages of both teams.
That's interesting.
That too.
I didn't know that. I mean, I could see that. That's interesting. I never thought of it. I wonder if it's like that for the probably for the USA, like the Olympics basketball. I never even thought about that. That's crazy. But I don't think that helps you be interested in the game though, because that's still too broad.
But even amidst all of this, all this role in watching the game, is one of the fundamentals of it is experiencing it with the person. Why does it matter if you want to watch the game with them? It's because you're enjoying a part of the life that person is involved or care about. That's the importance of it. Not just, oh yeah, I expect you to know the soccer, I expect you to know this. No. What? Like for me, I don't expect you to watch games like that. But when I watch the games, I'm in a different world. Because if my team's losing or whatever, I'm a whole different person. But if you watch the game with me, you got to see that part of me or that part of my life. It could either be I got angry, I got sad, or I got happy, or I cried or joy. It doesn't matter which one. But the point is, you got to experience me as an individual in that point of that experience. Could be the same thing like if you go out to a party, if you go to somebody's birthday, it's recorded in that similar format. And that's the importance of it, of, hey, I want to partake in what you're doing because I'm learning about you through that act or whatever it's happening around you. So that's how I look at it. That's why like learning the sport doesn't have to be like, oh, I know it to the T. No, it's what am I learning about it with you?
See, I kind of disagree with that because I feel like if she was to watch you, let's say a game is on, right? And she comes and watch the game with you, she can't enjoy the game with you because she don't know what's going on.
She doesn't. I don't expect you to be to that level where you're gonna know everything that's going on.
I don't think I feel like there should be a level of knowledge because, so like I said, let's say you're watching a game and then your team loses and you're really upset, right? She wouldn't really know how to to engage in that with you because she's like, okay, somebody lost. Yeah, I think he's definitely mad that one of these teams lost. I think it's the red one,
right.
And he doesn't want them to lose.
Right.
And I feel like because I know with me, if you were to look at her, because this happened the other day. I didn't say anything. This annoyed me, right? So I'm watching the game, and my beautiful girlfriend Anita Byrne over here, she somebody had missed a shot. She's like, yes, right?
That's a no-no.
Right?
You don't do that.
Right? And she don't even know.
I noticed that, right?
Yes.
I noticed that you didn't say nothing after I said yes. I was like, maybe I wasn't supposed to say that.
So this is
That's a no-no.
right. So I was in my soul. My soul was on fire because my thing was because also I didn't have a dog in the fight. I didn't care who won. I like to watch a good game personally, right? So I was like,
So how am I supposed to know?
but this is the thing though, because you don't even know what team I like or what I want to see when I'm watching it.
But if I ask you what team you like, you'd be like, well, I don't really like teams like that. I like good basketball. How am I supposed to know what?
You're yelling yes.
I mean, because I'm assuming it's good basketball if somebody scored.
The person missed. They missed the shot.
Yeah.
It was the end of the game.
I know.
Look,
So somebody's about to win. So whoever wins is good basketball.
Do you?
I don't know if you've seen it. It was the Utah Jazz Denver Nuggets game. I don't.
This year, right?
Yeah, it was this year. It was when Donovan. It might have been when they got eliminated. I'm not sure. It was when Connolly shot the corner, the wing shot. It was like the last second of the game. He got it off of like a steal or something like that. It was a rebound. He missed it. I think they went home. I don't remember. Donovan Mitchell fell on the floor. He was like crying or whatever, right? So I'm like, damn, I know how he feels because that's crazy. Like he was trying as hard as they were up 3-1. I'm like, damn, he was fighting hard, scoring 50 points a game, and then he goes to the basket. Loses the ball, right? They steal it from him. They go the other way. They miss the layup on the other side, so they could come back and score the Utah. They get a shot and they miss, and I'm just like, wow, that was crazy. That was crazy. She's like, yes, 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 and I'm like, what are you saying yes? Because I don't even know why you're saying yes for. That was my thing.
That was me trying to show some interest.
And that level, I believe you should learn the person's, at least understand what team that person
He
likes.
doesn't have a team that
No,
he
I understand that part for him, but like you typically or usually, if I say from what I've experienced, most individuals have a team that they like. Personally, I have my own team. I like United States, or so. If my team is playing, and you should at least know who's my team in the field, because if that happens, you get the game tossed out the window.
So what take on liking the opposing team just to create interest?
That's what I know. No, absolutely not.
But that helps me to be interested because now I have a stake in the game.
That's not a stake in the game. That's trying to piss somebody off.
Exactly, and that's what I felt like she was doing that day when it happened. And that's why I'm like, you know what, we have to break up because obviously Melissa wants me to go and go into depression and because I'm like, and like I said, it wasn't about the fact that I wanted one team to win or the other team to win. It was a sad moment that the guy who was trying so hard lost. But that's what I'm saying. You just yelling out yes because somebody missed a shot, and I'm like, what was that? Where'd that come from? See, so in my head, I'm like, oh, she just wants me to be annoyed because she feels like she want to do what Neffy just said. Oh, he likes the red team. I'm rooting for the blue team. So now what you've done when you do that, right? If your team wins, right, and his team loses, how do you expect that you guys? Because now it's a fake admiration that you have for the team that won, and he doesn't want that team to win. So how do you expect to have a good, I guess, energy after that happens? Like, if you're like, yeah, my team won. Mind you don't care about the team at all. Like, I feel a bit different if you cared about me. You don't care. Like, I just want to go against whatever team you like. So now, but that's not positive.
You create a negative energy from it because the person's already angered.
I didn't like competition.
That's not really competition. Competition.
I said that's what helps me to get engaged.
But like I said, I feel like it would be if you had a team. I think that's different because it's like my team beat your team, and you have a reason.
It was.
Yeah,
It was my team.
But you don't have
I
a team.
wanna have
Your mindset is I want you to be mad when my team wins.
And I think.
See, when you put it that way, it does sound terrible. But in the scheme of things, I'm like, okay, I want to have an interest. This is how I'll be interested is if you're rooting for one, I'm rooting for one. Let's see what happens. And then, like you said, because I didn't actually have an interest in the team, it's like, okay, I don't feel any kind of way.
But he does.
Because
it only works. The reality of it.
so I can console you in the moment.
That only works if both parties have no stake on the team.
Yes.
Be like, oh, I know what. I want this team to win, and you want this. Okay, let's bet. All right, that makes fun there. But if the person has an actual emotional investment involved into it, it doesn't work because what you do is you forget the attachment or the association that comes with that feeling. I'm mad that my team lost. Now I'm mad at you too, right, because you with that team now.
And now that's it.
And it's not even worth it.
I didn't realize that the level of emotional attachment. I thought, because I mean I've done this before, where you root for one team, I root for another, and then you kind of like pissed off because the team that I rooted for won, and we go on about our day. But now I understand from dating this gentleman, there's a much deeper level of attachment to the team or the game, and it's actually kind of scary. So I don't even go there.
Okay.
I don't root for anybody. I just stay neutral because
yeah, like I said, that's me personally.
it's
I
a
think
little dangerous.
I definitely would not suggest that idea that you had. I don't think anybody listening should do what you just suggested. Anybody listening, do not just choose the team that your partner enjoys and go against them.
If y'all have that kind of relationship,
don't do that. No, just don't.
But unless it's a guy who has a very serious attachment to his team, don't do that.
I don't. That's a horrible.
I feel like for the purpose of animosity,
with it before.
I don't think you should do that.
Till now.
Just so that you could have a reason to be like, nah, you lost and I won. I feel like you're already breeding contempt, and now what's gonna happen is you're just gonna be like, yeah, your team suck. Mind you, you're not even your team. Now you walk around the house like,
for the sport.
Yeah, like you don't care about nothing now, because it's like, and even like, if y'all don't watch the sport, then maybe. I feel like if y'all were to both watch like golf or something, y'all were like, I want him to win, and then he won. You're like, damn, my God. It's more like a, wish my guy would have won that.
But that's how I feel when we watching a sport, and then you like throwing stuff. I'm like, okay.
Nah, I feel like you gotta be able to gauge that.
Maybe they should have won, so you would be happy.
Yeah.
What happened?
Because it's like, I feel like we see a game, like what's happening in the game, but that's not what you guys see. You guys see how much practice they put in, where they came from, how old were they when they started playing.
Right.
You see like, all of that playing out in front of you, and that's not what I'm seeing.
Right. Just like, I'm gonna just root for the other team so I can have this interest for the hour and a half or however long the game is gonna be on for, and that helps me to stay interested. It's like, oh, okay, the other team scored. Oh, they got something over on you. Y'all didn't win. Alright, maybe next time. I'm
gonna go back to the nuance example of it. It's if you have the highs and lows of the sport, right? You're watching a game on TV. For me, if I'm watching a game and I know the nuance, the high and low could be of a guy pump faking, the guy falling for it, the guy jumping into him, he gets a foul, right? You've seen this before? I don't know if you have you seen. You don't know what that.
I don't know what you just said.
Okay, so.
I understand what you
Okay, do you know what a foul is in basketball?
I know a foul is.
Okay, so this is an example of this. So you might see this in games, right? I have the ball, I pump fake. That means I pretend to shoot the ball, right? The guy guarding me jumps in the air, falls for my shot, like you saw Kiki, right?
And then you just.
I lean into him.
And then he gets off balance.
He falls on me, and I pretend to shoot. Oh, I got fouled. I forced that foul when he jumped. Right, exactly. Right. So if I'm watching basketball, and let's say you saw that, you wouldn't even know what's happening. You would see a guy jump in the air, and you just like, he threw the ball into the air for some crazy. I don't know why he did that, right? But so for you, the only high and low of the game is either the ball goes in the basket, it don't go in the basket, somebody won, somebody lost. But for me, it's a lot of highs and lows for the whole game. So I'm able to stay interested in the game because I'm able to see, okay, he pump faked him here, he passed the ball here, that was a good pass. Oh, he swung it around, he did that. So, but like I said, for you guys, it's not as interesting because it's here, the game started, somebody scored, it's halftime, he didn't score, game over. Like that's it. Like
and
that.
They keep blowing the whistle.
Yeah,
that's how you know
and you don't.
something happened.
You don't. You're like, yeah. You're like,
whistle again.
You hear that? You're like, something happened on the court. Right. I don't know what it is, but something happened.
Right.
So I feel like that's why I go back to the nuance thing. If you know more of the little things happen throughout the game, it makes it interesting to watch the game. So I think it makes it easier for you guys to watch it if you guys know like the smaller stuff in the game. So I think you guys should just like watch. Like I said, he said earlier, we talked about it before. It's trying to figure out what should you guys pay attention to in the game. So I can talk about basketball. I don't know what happens on a soccer field that would be a nuance.
It's in the same level. Like you said, if you know a certain tactic, a certain play, the way a person dribbles, if he always goes to the right, if he crosses it, the header, all of this stuff. Right. But understanding all that level is good. But I think like before you even get to that level where you watch, even if you watch the game, you learn as I go. But you should at least understand why that person likes the sport, so you yourself can connect with that person. Like for you, I don't know why you like basketball, but from what you mentioned, you played since you were a kid. Yeah. But she should be at least try to understand like, okay, what does the sport do for you? Why is that? Okay, I understand that, so I can have a better understanding of you as a person and why you pay attention to this. That helps you navigate certain things.
For me, I don't really like that, because I'm like, I don't think that it doesn't. I don't feel that from her. If she said, I know that Donovan likes basketball because he, for me, the reason I like basketball is because it's like art. That's why I like basketball, right? So if she was to say that, it would be like, oh, okay, like. I wouldn't feel it when she said it.
Oh no, I don't expect her to describe it the way you describe it, but she should at least understand why you have that mindset.
So I'm saying, I think she has to know on a nuanced, smaller level why I like it, as opposed to it being a broader reason of like my upbringing or whatever. Because like I said, if I'm watching a game, I want her to be able to know like, oh, he liked the way that this guy did that, because the way he did it was artful. It was masterful the way he did that thing. So if she can see that, then that would make me go, okay, like now she knows why I like basketball. What?
Oh, I'm listening. Yeah, it's just because, especially when it comes to like the basketball games, I feel like with you, there's more importance on you actually physically playing basketball as opposed to what we're watching on television. So that's the part of it too.
Kind of not true. That's
okay, so explain how
like,
that's not true.
I like good basketball. Like I like to see, it's like what I just said. It's the art of it. Whether I'm playing it or I'm watching it, I'm like, yo, that was crazy. Like if I'm in the park playing, I'm trying to do the art that I see in my head when I see it on TV. If I'm watching, I'm like, wow, he put so much into being able to do that thing. That's why I like watching it. So for me, you'd have to know those things that for me, that's why I like it. And I feel like that is how we would connect on the sport. Like that, then we could connect. If she goes, okay, I know, like he sees the little things in the sport.
So for me, I have two touch. I have the history of it, of why a team is like, if you'll go like Brazil and Argentina. Everybody knows Brazil because everybody like know they're like the best team in the world for their history anyway. But you like Brazil and Argentina, that's like the rivalry. That's like the Boston Celtics versus what would be the opposite for what was Boston and Lakers, right? Yeah, so it'll be like that. But like I know that history, and whenever that game is gonna come, it's like, oh man, yo, you need to watch this game. You may not understand every little passing and thing, but you understand that hey, this is gonna be crazy. Or for somebody who watches a different sport, like for track, the United States and Jamaica. Hey. It doesn't matter who's running, but this is something that's a big deal. So starting from there, and then you can, as the actual sport happens, then you start picking up on those little things. Connecting those two dots together will create a better bond throughout the whole process or enriching of the relationship. So it's connecting those two dots. That's why, I don't know, for you, that might be different, but you'll see.
This is something I just kind of had an epiphany right now. So it goes into what you said, if I expand on it, where you have to know why somebody likes the sport. Because from what I said, I think different than why you like the sport. Right. So I'm wondering if you were more into the history of the sport, if that would be how you guys connect on the sport. And then, cause I'm like, if she came to me about some history about basketball, I'd be like, that's cool. Like, I know, whatever. But I'm curious if she knew about the history between Brazil. Like, if she could say, well, the reason that Brazil and who's the rivalry you said? Argentina. If they had a rivalry, but she brought up one of the games where it was a bad call and they should have won, but they didn't win. And the next year they played, or next 4 years they played, they overcalled, something like that. Something similar to that. And then I wonder if that would be how you guys connect over that sport. And then when she finally does watch the game for the 5th year that it happened, she's like, I know the last 4 times they played, some BS happened. So now you're watching for the 5th time and you like, oh, nah, they gotta win because they've been cheated the last 4 times they played or the last 3 times they played.
That would put a lot into it. In the essence, I mean, that wouldn't be to solve the case.
Yeah, but yeah, that would be a start to it. I feel like
definitely be that's what I mentioned, the two connections.
Yeah, because I'm like, for me, it's not for me. It's not history. So I think it's important to know why somebody likes. I'm not actually people like. Cause I'm curious now why people like certain sports. Because like I said, I don't. That's very curious. That's interesting.
Like I said, I got into soccer for different reasons.
But now,
Yes.
$1 million question.
Yes.
How would you feel if you wasn't able to obtain that?
To obtain what?
For your partner to have that interest that you're looking for?
When you okay? Can you rephrase the question?
If the interest that we've been discussing thus far, what you want them to know, what you want them to be involved in, how you want them to be involved. If you wasn't able to obtain that from the person, how would it make you feel?
As if Melissa didn't look up the nuance of basketball. Is what you're saying?
She didn't look it up.
Jesus
if
Christ.
she never, if she never, quote unquote, got it when it comes to basketball. If her level of interest stayed the same, or knowledge stayed the same, how would you feel about that?
Okay. If that were to happen, I would be annoyed. The reason why I would be annoyed is because that is showing that she's not trying to obtain that interest. Because like I said earlier, I don't expect her to know what I know, but I would like her to do something like outside of just watching the game. And if you watch the game, then ask me questions while the game, like, let me know that we're both watching this game together. So if something happens, you don't understand it happened. Hey, what the heck was that? Why don't they have the ball no more? And I go, oh, okay, well, this is what just happened. But if I'm watching the game and she's like, all right, I'm going to bed, I'm gonna be like, I probably would feel hurt. That's probably the word, but I would also kind of annoyed. I'm like, yo, I like this, I love watching this, and you just kind of like whatever about it. So I would be annoyed. And I feel like after a long period of time, if you know that you're my girlfriend and this is what I like to do, and you show no interest in it, I would be annoyed by that. So I think if she never obtained that ability, that just shows me that she's not putting energy into a relationship like that.
I mean, you may never actually reach that point, but effort shows. You can't hide effort.
Exactly.
Even if you never because the game may be too complex for you, which I'm not saying that for the person is, but let's just for goodness sake say that is. But did you try? Exactly. If you tried and you don't get it, then fine, so be it. You tried. Right. But if you're like you said, all right, game's done, hey, have a good night. Exactly. Then obviously, there's a level of maybe it's not like you don't care. It's just like maybe you should care. Maybe that'll go further.
I would appreciate if you did, and I just think it makes it better. Like I said, you said traveling is your passion. I feel like that's a more difficult passion because I feel like it's more involved.
If you let's use traveling as an example, yes, it could be difficult because you may not be as good as a planner as that person, or you may not be interested in whatever country you're going. But if that person wants to plan something and they're telling you, hey, this is where I want to go, you as a person, even if this is not your interest, you should be like, okay, tell me about it. I'll look into it to see like, okay, maybe there's something that I may want to do there too, or what you want to do. Oh, is that what you like? Let me see what it's about. Why do you like it? Ask, ponder, try to figure it out. That's effort. You may never be a good planner, or you may never plan in your life, but the fact is you're trying to show that interest in that person's life goes a long way. It's the same level as, like you said, the nuance. That's just the opposite side of it.
I agree with that. I think it's more so about the effort of trying to do it. And I believe that if you put an effort in to do it, you will gain a certain level of knowledge that we can communicate about it. It won't be, it doesn't have to be you are an expert on this thing. It can just be like, hey, if I'm watching Zion Williamson play and we've been watching games for a while and she asks me questions throughout the game, like I think, well, you know about Kawhi Leonard.
He has big hands.
It's stuff like that where it's like okay, just fine. Yeah, like he has really huge hands. So I feel like if he was watching a game and he did something crazy with his hands, she'd be like, Dad, his hands are huge because of that thing. And I feel like that comes from her, like, having the effort in trying to learn something about it. So I think, like I said, like he said, the effort is very important. She don't have to know his whole history. She don't have to know how many points he scored this game and last game and everything else. But she's like, I know something because I tried to learn something, and I do know something about the game. So like I said, like to your question again, if she doesn't know anything or never reaches that level, she doesn't care. I feel like she's not trying. She's not trying at all. Like she's not trying to learn anything. So that's what I feel. So I feel about that.
So, do you feel like I've tried, or I am trying?
To a certain extent, yes. You can always do more. Personally, that's just in life in general. You can always do more, but
it's okay. What do you think you consider trying? Like
the knowledge that I know now, because I went from 0.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm at like.
In
my mind, I'm like at 50.
Do you ask questions?
Good.
You ask questions? I feel like that's a no. I feel like you don't ask questions. I feel like if you have to think like that, that means that I feel like you're not thinking about asking questions.
In certain instances, I'll ask questions if I feel like, because like sometimes we'll watch a game and personally I don't feel like anything has happened that's worthy enough to ask a question about. Versus like I feel like with basketball and even football, is way more going on that you would ask a question about. With soccer, I personally don't think that there's enough going on where I'm gonna ask you, hey, what's happening?
But do you ever ask that though?
You kicked the ball from this side to that side, and it went back over to this side. And I'm not gonna ask you a question about that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
But I feel like with basketball and football, I just feel like it's a little bit more interactive. There's way more contact going on, so you can ask, okay, why this one hit that one? Or how come he stole the ball? Like, there's more turnovers. I feel like with basketball or even football, I don't really feel like that's the same thing with soccer. It definitely takes... And that's the other thing that kind of bothers me, is that it's an hour and a half and then, like, nobody scored. That really irritates me. To watch the whole game and maybe you got 1 point. I'm just like, oh, my God. But apparently there's interest to that. So I'm like, okay.
So this is what I was going to say too about that. I feel like you should probably try and ask what is happening. I feel like that's a good question to ask. Like, because I'm like, something's happening something's happening.
Well, I'll ask that question if I see a reaction out of him. But if he's just sitting there, I'm just like,
but I feel like you should, cause
maybe nothing happened.
Because I don't, like I said, it's different highs and lows. So it's like, he may be happy somebody scored, or maybe somebody got hit or something like that. Mm-hmm. He may be upset that somebody got hit.
Right.
But in between that, I think there are things that are still happening, but you don't see those things. So I think you should be like, yeah, I don't know what's happening. Can you explain? I kick the ball. I don't know what that is. Like, what's happening? What?
But I feel like that's hard to do if you don't see a reaction coming from the person. Because
Right.
it's kind of like, you just think that nothing.
It doesn't have to be the react. You just have to go, what is happening right now? Because as a person,
kicked the ball.
This was it. Like, if you feel like you see what's happening right now.
So it's
Right.
It's similar to like basketball. If you watching the game and all you see is ball in the net, ball in the net, ball in the net, that itself can just be understood as like, okay, that's just what it is. It's just layer. But if the person is just watching the game and is ball in the net, ball in the net, ball in the net, if I go, hey, what's happening, then I can give you like, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling. That doesn't mean I need to have a reaction, because usually basketball games, I'm just, from what I've seen, I can't speak for you, but from what I've seen, there are certain people who watch the game, it's not until the game gets close to the end that all of a sudden positions start shifting, their reaction, their demeanor changes. But as the game, unless they do like something big throughout the game, but if it's just, hey, it's a back and forth game and you're like, okay, I'm just watching it, you wouldn't know until you ask. So it's an assumption that's taken that's not helping.
I think it also comes from just, well, for me, I like to observe my partner. So if I've observed you watch whatever, maybe 3-4 games, and the only time that I see you, I notice that you always have a reaction, that's when I'm going to question, hey, what's going on? But if I see you just sitting there and you're not making any noise, you're not...
See, okay, so this is, hold on, this is
I'm
my...
not going to think to ask anything.
This is my thing about that. And this is, it could be a woman thing, I feel like I don't know. 'Cause I mean, it sounds like between you guys, y'all both do this, and y'all just happen to both be women. But it sounds like you guys are trying to make us happy. Now, it sounds weird when I say it, because at the end of the day, by watching the sports, that is what you guys would like to do. However, if you only ask me what happened when something big happens on TV, I know you're not really into what's happening on here. You're just like, oh, he's excited. Oh, what happened? What happened? Oh, they kicked the ball in the thing. Oh, that's great. And then that's it. But if we're watching it and I know that you're asking, like, okay, I'm watching the game, but I don't understand what's happening. I see them running back and forth. They throwing the ball back and forth. I don't know what's happening. Now we're bonding. Both of us are bonding together over this, as opposed to you looking at me and going, I'm just going to react to how you're feeling, as opposed to us being together watching the game. And I'm going, okay, well, what happened was they just ran a play and he passed the ball. It went out of bounds. He wasn't able to do this and a third. And you can be like, oh, that's great. I did not see that. I didn't see none of that. I watched the game with you. I didn't see any of that stuff happening. So now we're bonding. And then maybe the next play, you're like, did they do that same play again? And I'm like, they did do that same play again. They did do that. So now we're both watching this, as opposed to you just watching me watch this. I don't want you to watch me watch this. I'd rather us both watch the game. Does that make sense? Do y'all agree?
No, I understand. It's the same context. I can use my own parents to the same level. Like when my dad watches the game, and with my mother, she'll be like, "Oh, they scored," and like, yeah, they scored, but did you see what happened? Like the whole 30 minutes before, how they managed to do it, or something like that. And sometimes she does do it. She'll be like, "Okay, I saw this and I saw that. I saw that. I saw this and this and that." And my dad would turn around and look at her like, I know you can do it. You put your mind to it.
Yeah.
So I don't expect you to do it every single turn, but it's that. So, like you said, it's asking that question goes a long way. It bonds because you understand the context of it. I know it sounds. I don't know if for you that may sound foreign.
It's weird because we're not watching the game out of genuine interest of me wanting to watch the basketball game.
Right.
And like you said, it's like we're watching the game because of what you're interested in, and I'm interested in you.
Exactly.
So of course, while watching the game, I'm going to be interested in how you react to the game because
Correct.
I'm watching this for you.
Right.
So
I know, and I'm saying that's why it's weird, and that's why I think there's a miscommunication or a disconnect in what would make that experience better. I think that you might believe that appealing to what I like from the game is going to make it better.
I think me just being there watching the game with you is like me trying. Just
No,
it off in my
that's
head.
not sufficient.
I mean,
passive.
but that's after hearing how you feel about it that I'm understanding that now. But prior to having this conversation, I think, oh, okay, the game is on. I'm here watching it with you. I see how you're reacting. Now I'm trying.
Watching the game, though. That's the question. You're not watching the game. You're there in the room with me.
I'll even take it a step further. You have children. I mean, you didn't have children. If you come to your children's play and based on either they're screwed up or whatever to perform, you were there your whole time on your phone working.
Right.
Were you there for that child because your body was physically there? Does not mean that child to them is like, hey, you weren't here, mom. You weren't here there. Yeah, your body was there, but I didn't expect anything with you. So that's that same level. Because you're physically there does not mean you're there.
Right.
Similar to what happened when you were singing, where it's like when you were a kid. It's very similar. Where it's like, okay, yeah, you arrived, but when I come in, you go, did you see when I was? Nah, I ain't watched the play. I ain't seen none of that. I know you was up on the stage. I looked up one time. I saw you do a little thing, and I turned my head back on my phone. And it's like if you were there, actually, it's like I said, it's the effort. It's like. The effort, it's I don't even know how to explain. The fact that you're trying to do it is a lot more than you actually being somebody that is an expert on that topic. It's like, I just want to try and learn it.
Wait a minute.
What?
In regards to the example that he just gave
Okay.
with going to a child's play,
Yeah.
yes, you have some people who are there physically, but they're not paying attention.
Uh-huh.
We're paying attention to you. Like you said, we're not paying attention to the game. So similar to his example with the play, I'm there and I'm watching you.
Uh-huh.
I may not be watching whatever else is going on in the play, and that might be something that you may wind up asking me. Hey, did you see everything else that was happening in the play, and you're like, no, I didn't. I just saw you. And it's the same thing that we're doing when we're watching a game with you. You're asking us, did we see what happened in the game? No, I didn't see what happened in the game, but I did see that you jumped up and down when that guy missed the shot. Because now we're, like you said, we're observing the game in the sense of how you're reacting to it.
I'm gonna tell you the difference between that.
The association.
Yeah. So
I hear what your association is, but in regards to how we interpret what's happening, that's how I feel like as a female we're interpreting what's happening. Is that you're asking us to enjoy and watch what you're watching. And that is not what we watch it for. We don't watch it to enjoy what you're watching and to, like you said, try to understand what's happening. It's more from a standpoint of, I'm going to watch what's happening in regards to how it makes you feel and how you're going to react to it. And that's when I decide to either ask you a question about it or try to connect how the two relate.
okay, hold on. I have an example for you. Okay, so because I think the play example, I think that you got from what you said, an example that was given originally. I think it's two different parts. You're talking about the experience of the person watching it, which would be the person in the audience, the mother, whoever. And the first example was of the child seeing the person in the audience, like after it, like, oh, you watch me play, and they're like, whatever. So I think the difference with that example is that somebody is in the play and somebody's watching the play. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of a little different. But if you were driving on a long road trip and the person in the passenger seat was sleeping, you wouldn't enjoy that. Because they're not actually, and they're not experiencing the trip with you. So you would want them to be awake, whether you guys are talking about whatever you guys are talking about, because you guys are there doing that thing together. Them being in the car is not enough for you to be like, that was a great road trip from here to wherever we went to while you slept the whole time. And I feel like that's more similar to the example of somebody watching the game together, because it's two people who are trying to experience one thing together, as opposed to one person watching another person do something. So like I said, we're both watching the TV, or if we're watching a show on TV, I want to be able to go, yo, did you see that? That was crazy. And if you're like, yeah, I think that might have been, I don't know what's going on in this. I have no idea what's happening in the show. I think somebody died, maybe. I'm like, oh, you're not watching that. Once I do that one time and look over at you and I realize that you're not watching it, I'm like, okay, you're not watching it. Like, I can tell you're not interested in watching it. But if you're giving an effort to go, I'm trying to follow this storyline, but something is kind of messed up. I can't. Do you know what's going on right now? I go, yeah. So the guy just killed his mom, and now he's trying to get back at him. And you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. But you have to put in the effort to get to that point to do that. Does that make sense?
Like I said, I get the whole idea of effort. But I don't feel like pausing. When you watch the game with him, are you doing something else when you're watching it?
It depends. It depends. It depends on how interested you are in the game. Are you making that face? First of all, Donovan doesn't watch basketball that often. So there's not really a lot of opportunities where we are both watching the game at the same time. Now, recently, since he's been home more, there have been times where the game is on and everything like that. But Donovan doesn't watch the entire game. Donovan will watch something else, watch YouTube videos in the middle of it, and then go back to the game when he feels like it's interested. So because he doesn't have that full on like attention on the game, I didn't think that it was as important to him as it is. So I didn't.
The times that he does have it on, are you engaged with it, or are you doing something else while he has it on?
I might be on my laptop, but like next to him on my laptop while it's right there.
So, again, that still just goes back to my point of observing your interest in it. Because like she just explained, you're saying right now how interested you are in the game, but now when she observes you, it doesn't seem like you are, because you're multitasking while you're trying to watch it.
Okay.
And now, even with EJ and his involvement with soccer, he's very involved. He don't turn the channel, and like I said, the fact that he records it, I'm like, okay, this obviously is very serious, because he's recorded it to watch it, and he doesn't want commercials or anything. It's a full straight hour and a half. At the same time, he might be on his phone while he's doing it. So, like I said, I feel like everything that we do is from a level of observing how interested you are, and that's how we will show how interested we're going to be in it based off of what we think is your interest. But now, like you said, when you have the conversation, now you can see, okay, this is a little bit more serious than I thought it was. Maybe I can adjust my efforts to what's going on. But even still, with how EJ watches soccer, I realize how serious it is because of how much he talks about it. If he never spoke about it and I just watched how he watched it, I probably wouldn't think he was that interested in it, because I'm like, okay, he records it, but he's on his phone. He doesn't seem to be reacting too much. So I'm like, I don't know if he really has that much interest in it. Because you're not like jumping up and down, because like that's the reaction that we're looking for. And then it's like, oh, and for me, as you said, it's about that atmosphere, as we talked about before. If the atmosphere is very engaging, I'm like, oh my God, like what's happening? Talk to me, tell me what's going on, because everybody's screaming, folks is running around, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Something must be going on. But if you're just sitting there, you're on your phone, you go back to it, you're on your phone, and you go back to on your phone, I'm like, okay, is this important or it's not? I don't really understand what's happening. And that might be a time when I might question what's happening, because of the fact that your reaction went up and down. So again, this goes back to, like I was saying, in regards to from a female lens of how we interpret things and our perspective of something. We're observing how you are in that environment, and because it's something that we don't have an interest in, that is how we show our interest, is the fact that we've decided to watch it with you, be there, whatever, but now I feel like our interest comes from how you show your level of interest and like how deep you get into it. And again, only because I talked to him about it do I realize that he has a big interest in it. But the way in which he shows his interest, like I say, he's not going to games all the time. He ain't putting on his jersey. He's not calling people over, yo, game's on, everybody come over, food. I'm like, so maybe it's not that, maybe it's not that big. Because I've seen, I said, he's not my first boyfriend that I've had who's into sports. I've seen those who are really into sports is intense, and it don't get that intense with him. So I'm like, okay, it must not be that intense.
I know you want to say something, but to what you just said, I think is funny, because I don't feel like people who are into sports are what you think they are. I don't think people who are really into sports are the ones running and like doing a lot of stuff.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't feel like that.
That's it.
Cheer for the atmosphere.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. That right.
So
Those are my people.
Here's an interesting thing though. If you watch a game that was like you weren't interested and you just watched the game and everything that happened, if she asked you what you saw and how you felt about it, you'd be able to go, look, I saw this, I saw that. Exactly. So just because you watching somebody watch the game and they're just stale throughout the whole match, if you see me and my father and I talk about it after the game, you'd be like, is that the same game you just watched? Because the reaction of what I'm explaining or he's explaining is as if it's the up and down of the game.
Right.
But throughout the watching it, focus or whatever I may be doing while I'm watching the game. But if the game ended 0-0, doesn't matter. But like, hey, what happened at the end of the game? Yo, he got this close to scoring this goal. He got fouled there. He tackled him. The ball almost made it. About to hit the line. He missed it. All of that.
Yeah.
But you ask. If you just wait to just watch that person's body language and you don't ask, you'll never get that other side or that extra part.
Right.
And that's the part that I feel like there's that disconnect.
The other thing I was going to say to that is, granted I don't have that issue with him, but I noticed also that like some guys, they don't want to be interrupted while their game is on. So it's like, should you ask questions?
I don't agree with that, because when you say interrupted by doing what?
I said to ask questions.
But I don't think, see, that's the thing. That I feel like if a girl was to interrupt me while I'm watching basketball and ask me a question that is similar to where you're trying to appeal to my reaction to something, I feel like then I might be annoyed, because you're not watching the game. You're just trying to like get cool points with me by saying, oh, what just happened? And now I gotta like explain like everything that just happened for that only because you asked about that thing, that one thing that happened. Now you're on top of that, as opposed to if you're watching the game together. Now you're like, what's going on right now? When I'm not screaming and running around and jumping, you're like, what's happening? I'm like, all right, so look, right now he's setting up in the corner. You see him plotting in the corner? He gonna come around that screen. He gonna set it down, so he gonna do that, right? But then if the guy hits a 3 and I'm running around, oh my God, he hit the 3. You're like, what happened? What happened? What happened? Now I gotta go, okay. So 3 possessions ago, when I was not jumping around, the guy was missing shots and he finally hit, and I gotta do that. But that's, like I said, that's what happens when the girl only cares to get cool points with me. Because she doesn't, I believe that, for me personally, I'd rather you have an interest in, my interest is in your interest of the game. That's what bonds us, is that interest of us both interested in watching the game. Not, she wants to appeal to me watching the game. I don't go, yeah, my girl, whenever something happens, my girl get excited. No, that doesn't make me feel cool. Like I don't feel good when my girl is jumping up because I'm jumping up. Cause she's like, we jumping together. What happened? I don't know, but you jumping, so I'm jumping with everybody. I'm like,
sometimes it does have its allure.
Maybe, but then it's
minimal.
Yeah, it's like, okay, because if I'm jumping, because I don't even know if that's true. Because I'm like, the other day somebody hit a shot and I forgot what game it was. Somebody was doing something crazy and I ran over there. I'm like, this is going crazy.
It's probably the Denver game when he hit that 3.
Was it Denver? It was when Jamal Murray was going crazy. He had like 50 something. Okay. It was one of those games, right? And I'm like, he's really going off. And he hit another shot. I ran over there. If she would have ran over there with me, it's like, yo, that was crazy. And I'd have been like, yeah. I'd be like, what happened? I don't know what happened. I'd have been like, so why are you running? Well, you're running. I'd have been like, Melissa, you just sit down.
As an individual, I would participate in the running around with. Okay, I'm jumping and you want to join me in the crazy, that's fine. Because it has its allure.
Okay.
But I'm not expecting you to be at every corner.
Yeah, I would be like,
here and there, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd just be like, Melissa, it's fine, you can sit down. But like, if you were watching it and you're like, he hit another one, and you like, oh, he hit another one, I'm like, Melissa, he hit another one. You like, yeah, he hit another. I'm gonna be like, yo, this is getting crazy. And then he hits another one, and we both fall on the, like, to me, that's what I would enjoy more. But that only comes from like not the anxiety,
the effort to try to attempt.
No, what is it? Not what's that word called? Like when you're building up something. What's the word? It's not anxiety. It's the other word that, like when we wait for something to happen, like you're waiting for something to actually.
The anticipation.
Yeah, the anticipation. If we're both anticipating it to happen, and then we both go, oh my God, that was crazy. That, I feel like that is what for me makes it more exciting when we both do that at the same time. So, I actually have a question I wanted to ask cause I believe you wanted to bring it up too. I have a question about culture when it comes to relationships, right? So, Melissa is Caribbean. You are Caribbean. You are
sometimes Caribbean.
Right. I'm like 97% non-Caribbean and then 3% non-Caribbean. So
the math doesn't even make sense.
0.1% Caribbean.
Right. That don't make sense. I feel like that added up, right? 97.
No. This should add it up. Just the
0.01% Caribbean.
Just the definition of the percentage doesn't add up.
I feel like I don't know.
0.01.
Some people like saying people like to say I'm Jamaican sometimes. I don't really see it. I don't know. Maybe my name. I've been told. Maybe.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, this is my my black natural look. Mm-hmm. This is my actually it's my African look. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I wanted to ask you a question, and I'll kind of, because like I said, y'all are both Caribbean, and you're not as Caribbean as much, and I'm curious about this. The dynamic between the kid and the parent, and even with kids and family, because for me, I'm not into family as much, but I know that most people who are from other cultures seem to be very family oriented, and I don't really understand that. So even when I'm talking to her about certain things, and she might want to go somewhere to do something, I'm just like, for what? She's like, well, because my mom's gonna be there, my dad, my family's going. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, I all right, that's cool. But to me, I don't know why that is, but it doesn't hold the same weight for me. Now, I don't know if that applies to you as much, because I feel like,
of course it does, because I'm family oriented.
Yeah, but that's because you have that Jamaican side of you. That's why I don't really.
No, that's both sides. You just want to be special.
I personally don't feel like that.
Right. That's your personal preference.
Yeah.
You've grown up in that way, so now that you're older and you have the opportunity to make your own decisions, and we don't backtrack. We come from a family-oriented family.
Okay.
At the same time, we don't pressure for you to come to things, because now that you're an adult, it's like, okay, you don't want to come, fine, unless it's something that we're like, no. Like I said, we'll ask or beg you to come versus no, you going. It's not that like that high expectation. Like, what do you mean you not gonna show up?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we don't have that. I feel like once you get older, it's like, okay, they don't want to go. Okay. Fine.
Because the thing was with Melissa's family, I feel like when she moved out, I don't know if you know about this story about her moving out. Do you know about that?
Extent.
Okay, so I went over there and they were highly upset about her moving out. Right? Okay. Somehow I was supposed to go there talk to her mom, and then the grandmother lives there, so it was me talking to the mom and the grandmother, and then an aunt came, and then another aunt came, and then another aunt came, and then and then an uncle came, and then a stepdad came.
I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't be laughing, but this is
It was hilarious. Then it was your laptop's gonna die. Then her brother, they lived there too. And I believe one other person. Oh well, one aunt brought her kids. So it was just a lot of people, 2 kids. And I feel and then somebody FaceTimed somebody and they wanted to talk to me.
Was it FaceTime or WhatsApp?
I don't even. It was FaceTime. Yeah,
FaceTime?
You're right, because they live here. The person they FaceTime live here. They were in Florida, I believe. Right? Is that?
She moves a lot. Army.
Okay, so and then they FaceTime me, right? So it's very family oriented. When they found out she was moving out, it became like a huge thing, right? And
that's more than family oriented. That's like a game.
I feel like that's family oriented. That's how that worked. And now that's not true.
I don't know that I was saying. I don't know.
I'm not surprised that happened though.
So right. So the thing that to me, like I see in a movie sometimes when they do that, I'm like, I was cool with it. What I was not privy to was the fact of how they were going to act after she moved out, which was when they felt like they were going to disown her. Now, where I grew up, they tried. They started.
It was a lot of like, I would call it kind of like manipulation or like fear mongering. But once it wasn't working,
you said what?
That's usually what they do.
But once it stopped working, it's kind of like, well, I have something for you at the house, so you can come pick it up if you want. But it's like,
that's usually what happens.
But I don't understand why. Like I don't get
and
because
why you have somebody that feed into it. Like,
so I don't understand that.
And if you never fought against it prior to like that turning point, because I don't think I've ever. Yeah, that was my first time really having like a confrontation at that magnitude with my parents, where I'm like, I'm adamantly saying I'm doing this thing. That would be so life changing, I guess. So
it's only the life changing moments that they're gonna
so
attack y'all. So that's why I'm just like, it's gonna be okay.
So what's your question though? Based on
my question is why. 2 questions. Why is that? And I don't want to say Caribbean. I feel like it's more foreigner than it is just Caribbean. That they have that that family orientedness. 1, and then 2. Why do the kids in that dynamic respect that family? I don't want to say that family. It's like respect that mold that much, because I feel like whether it be like just a lot of my friends who have maybe African parents, they feel like I can't go against what my parent says, and I don't understand that, because for me, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. All right, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna go and do that thing.
I can't speak for others, but I know personally for me, or from what I've experienced, it's more like you're brought up with the idea that you respect your family, you respect the elders. Doesn't matter aunt, auntie, uncles, side uncle, married into uncle, don't matter. you're brought up to respect those choices, those decisions that they make. Now, you are entitled to fight back. You're not expected to fight back. And if you fight back, you're going to get hell for it. And hell can go as far as, all right, when the battle is done and lost, they'll be like, hey, I got something at the house, she says, or I will disown you. Or you get an in-between, depends on how hurt that person may feel about it or whoever it is. Personally, for me, I pick and choose my battles. It's not worth it, then I don't care to hear. I don't care to fight because I'm not gonna gain anything out of it. If it's something that I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Doesn't matter what you say, then because I believe that's what's right for me. You have your opinion, great. I heard it, awesome. I'm still gonna do it, and whatever fight back I get, whatever. Or I just don't bother telling you. I just go do my own thing. And more at this point of age, it's like, I don't need to tell you. If I tell you, it's a courtesy. But I'm not going to tell you because I don't care.
Okay.
So that's the level. And you'll see a lot of, I say Caribbean because this is what I've experienced. They're like, because you come here or even in the island, you're like, hey, you're expected to respect your parents, like I mentioned. You're supposed to do what they do because they're providing for you. You're coming from somewhere that you don't have anything. Or tradition. It could be tradition or do we have anything, doesn't matter. You're expected to follow the guideline, the rules. When you get up to a certain point where you're married and whatever, you go do your own thing. But parents' words are still to a certain level law. So it's up to you how you respect it or a lot of time, kids to reach a certain level, they're like, screw this, I don't care. But like you just did screw it, I don't care. I mean, you cared, but you still went into it anyway.
It wasn't that easy.
Of course, it's not. It's never that easy. But family orientation is a lot of times what all they have. Because this person brings this, that person brings this, and you pull the resources together to move forward. That's all you have. Okay. So, like I said, I can't speak for here, but you'll notice a lot of times that's what you see.
Yeah. Yeah, they say something. So like the fact that the thing you said, the last thing you said about everybody pulling those things together would be a reason. Those could be like the links that keep everybody strong together. Cause I don't feel like me personally that we have the people that like gave me so much. Like it would be almost similar to have like, I guess maybe like 10 nephews who were that involved in my life that pushed me and provided for me and helped me get to where I was. So I'm assuming that's what you're referring to when you say like.
But there's also the aspect of what you perceived as. What? I could give you an example from my own personal side. My mother, because of where she was brought up, how she was brought up, or who participated in her life, or when we were kids, I don't know these people. Okay. So to me, it's like, it's what it is. But there's like, no, this person did this for you. They did that. They brought this for you. When we had nothing and you were struggling, this person did for you. So I didn't experience it because I was either too young or I wasn't percepting it. So because of that, it's like, all right, I get it. So it's a matter of, hey, what did that person do for you? You may not witness it, but that doesn't mean that person didn't do for you. So like you said, for her, you have an active foresight of it. But that doesn't mean your family around you didn't provide for you in a certain way. So that's just for you, I guess, pay attention to that, I can say, or maybe that's up to you, but that happens. Yeah, so that's why people feel like they have the right, or parents be like, hey, you need to say something.
If somebody did something for me that I don't remember, I don't feel obligated to do something for them. So I don't know how that happens. How do you feel that you have the obligation to help somebody that somebody else told you helped you?
It's a matter of, the only way I can say is like, if they tell me what it is, I can use myself personally. If my parents or my family member like, okay, no, this person did this for you, I may not have known, but now that I know and I can connect to a situation, be like, oh, okay, I can't leave this person stranded. Because when I was going through something I didn't know, they came and pulled through. They may not have actively given it to me, but they did it. So it's like they didn't have to, regardless of their blood or not. They're still human beings. I don't have to help you, but I did. I'm not expecting you to give me back in return, but if I'm struggling, it should be on your heart to do something. Like I said, it's not been dated to, but you still should, in a sense. So it's that connection. I was like, just because you don't see something doesn't mean it's not being done.
Okay. So. Yeah, like I said, that was. I'm curious about that because I know when me and her have conversations now, even after she's moved out, it's the dynamic is, in my opinion, it comes across as very
controlling.
Yeah, definitely controlling, but it's not. It's more. It's usually manipulative through, like you owe me this, or you have to do this for me, or I can't believe you hurt me like that. You like, how can you hurt me like that? It was so crazy that you just hurt my soul. Whatever line that is used, and I'm like, if somebody was to do that to me and try to manipulate me through my emotions, I wouldn't feel obligated to help them because I'm like, if like I'm trying to think of an example. Her mom might have been like, you must hate me because you moved out the house, something along those lines. And I'm like, I feel as though to say something like that is very manipulative. I feel like that's not like, I don't think I would still have the same feeling towards my parents if they did that to me. And they try to manipulate me through emotion, and so we don't want you to do anything because it's gonna hurt us. It's gonna make us feel bad. We're not gonna like this. And I'd be like, that's cool, but this is what I'm gonna do. It's my life. How can you try? And then it'd be different for me if they were like, okay, Donovan, I don't like that you moved out. The reason that it hurt me is because, X, Y, Z and A, B, C, D. I'm like, all right, let's talk about this. But when it goes straight to, you must hate me, you want me to die, oh my God, this is terrible. Then it's like, now you're trying to manipulate me, and I have a problem with that.
Then, well, there's a factor there. When a situation is happening, that's in general with people. When you're going through a situation at that moment, at the heat of the moment, emotions are running wild. You're going to say certain things that, yes, at that moment you believe to be true. That does not necessarily mean they're manipulating you. It could be like they're going through that at that moment. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're leaving me. You must hate me. Like, what could I have done for you that you feel the desire to leave? That could honestly be a genuine feeling that you're feeling. Now, as time passes, and then you go back and have the conversation, they could be like, you know what? I may have thought that way, but that's not really. Now, the problem is, a lot of the time, it depends on who the kind of person they are. They're not going to admit that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't feel like they do that.
But that doesn't mean that it's not possible.
Okay.
Because I've experienced it personally. I've experienced that my parents can be so stubborn to certain things, and then years later, we go back to the conversation, and then they'll be like, oh, yeah, they wouldn't say I was dumb of me or something. They'd be like, yeah, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have thought about it like that. And you'll be like, what? And then we'll be like, did this happen? So it's a matter of like, you won't see it at that moment, but you might see it later. If you keep the relationship enough that you're like, whatever you're feeling, I'm going to do right by her, and I'm just going to stay in connection with you because that's her family. I'm not going to hate you guys. I'm not going to think of you as evil. Unless they're really like, yo, I'm going to screw you over. Then that's a different story. Okay. But if they're not doing that, they're like, okay, I have stuff for you guys, then they're still reaching out with an olive branch to a certain extent. So it's up to you. It's like, I don't want to take it, ignore it, partake, whichever way you feel about it.
Yeah, because my experience with it is that when it doesn't stop, like I haven't seen it where it's like, okay, the manipulation is over. It's always, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to use your emotions to get you to do what I want you to do. Where it's like, I want you to come back home, or I want you to buy this thing for me. I want you to go to this place. It's like every time that comes up, it's because you don't love me. You don't love me anymore, that you don't want to do that thing. And I feel like that. I don't know. That's my experience with it. I don't know why that happens. And I'm curious. Do you know if that happens or why that happens?
Emotion ties a lot to it. And that's why a lot of times that's what they experience growing up themselves. because of that experience, they'll pass it down to the next person or to the next person. A lot of time,
Don't do that to your child, okay?
very likely she will too.
Because you
Unless
don't love
you
me, that's why
actively-
you leaving me.
Unless, and I'm not saying it, but unless you actively think about it, you're gonna do it too, because that's just what you experience. A lot of the time,
Don't
you
do
try
that
to
to
pass
my
it on.
kids.
You don't try to pass it; you just do it. Either your partner helps you with it or not. Regardless, is emotion gets the best result. They know that, they understand that. It's not meant to be manipulative. It's just like, I know this is how I was brought up with you, connection with you, and I know that's how I'm able to connect with you. Doesn't mean it's the correct way, but it's just what it is. So sometimes it's not something that's necessarily their fault, it's just something that is based on what they experience. It's like the same thing, like, the only way for me to discipline you as a child is I have to beat you. That doesn't mean that every child will react the same way, or even that's the best option. Some need the beating, and they're like, all right, the fear of getting a beating, I will do the right thing. Or some like, I don't care, I'm gonna beat me. It's no difference. But I know that's what I was taught, and that's why I was taught you should. That's the discipline. Doesn't mean it works all the time. So the better question is what do you want to do about it in the sense of your relationship with you and her, and you two together to them, and you to them? Do you want to stay away?
Well, me, I don't care. See, that's what I'm saying. That's my go-to is always, if we're having a relationship, no matter who is between, whether it be me and her parents, me and my friends, once I feel as though you're trying to be toxic or be manipulative, I'm like, I would just rather not deal with you. That's just my instinct is just, I'm good, because it's trauma that's being passed down. And then if I identify that and tell you, hey, this was going on, this was happening, and that continues to happen, then I'm no longer going to subject myself to continuing to be hurt by what you're doing, because you are going through the trauma that you experienced growing up. That's not like, now I got to deal with it because now you feel comfortable doing what you're doing to me, but I don't feel comfortable with what you're doing to me. But I don't think I should have to accept it because that's what you experienced growing up.
I understand that part. Now comes the relation to her. What are you gonna do about it? Because if he's saying that he doesn't want to partake in it, is he saying that, hey, I don't want to deal with your family, but I'm supposed to have a relationship with you, but you're supposed to stay connected to them? Like, is this gonna be an exchange one way? Like, because God, let's imagine like you guys get married or have kids. Kids wants grandpa wants to know grandkids. You want grandkids to know them, but you're there like, well, you're manipulative. I don't want you to be around my grandkids. Oh, she wants to be. So he's like, where do you find that circle? I know I'm asking that. I know I'm saying something that's, believe me. Okay, so it's like, then it's like, where do you find the dynamic where it's acceptable, or it's like, I can deal with this certain type and not deal with this. So when this part happened, I'm gonna ignore it. So it's up to you.
Well, what we've been doing up until now, I've been like, I pretty much go and see my family whenever I feel like it, or whenever there's an event or anything like that. They do ask about Donovan or how he's doing, or if he wants to come, if they ask me to invite him to come, but like he said, he's not comfortable with that, and I'm not gonna push him to do it because I understand why he's not comfortable with it, because part of the reason why he's not comfortable with it is he's not comfortable seeing the interaction between me and my family. So it's kind of like, I feel like when it gets to the point, because there's still that emotional kind of warfare that might just be sprinkled in there out of nowhere, where it's kind of like, I thought that we were good, and I go over there and then I'll talk to my mom or talk to my grandma, and then something just comes out of left field that they upset about because of this and that, where it'll bring up that old stuff again. So I understand that he doesn't want to be around that, but I think that also has to tie into like me working on how I communicate with them and having that conversation with them about how they act and all that stuff, because we haven't really had that.
Now for you, with that knowledge, I understand you don't want to participate, but do you see any avenues where that will actually ameliorate the situation by you participating?
By me participating?
Correct.
I see two things if I was to participate. I think the one option would be if I go over and participate, then it would just continue whatever's happening to keep happening, right? With her and them, right? And I think if I go over there, and that's if I don't say anything, I'm just like, all right, cool, I'm here. Whatever I say to her is cool. I'm just gonna eat my food. I'm gonna talk to whoever and be chilling, right? That's option A. B would be if I go over there and then I correct the problem when they say something to her. But then what would happen is if I have to correct the problem with her family, then what I believe would then happen is they're gonna view I become the parent in that toxic parent-child relationship. And I don't want to be over there where I have to be like, don't talk to Melissa like that. That's not my job. I should not have to be parenting your parents and your family.
Okay.
So,
what about option 3?
Which is what?
You go with her, regardless of what they say to her.
Yeah.
They might say something to you, but it's up to you what tactical skills you have in navigating that kind of airwave. But whatever they say to her, it's you being there to support throughout that system shows a long way in their eyes. Not only does it do that, to her it also helps, and it also in a circle, like it's a feedback loop. You being there and experiencing it, you're like, okay, I understand. I'm understanding the culture and however they think, whatever. Now, because I understand these things and I see it with my own eyes, I'm able to like, okay, if I see something's coming, we know how to navigate it together. You already have that knowledge to a certain extent because of what you experienced. Now you're experiencing something different because you never rebelled before, but now you're seeing that level coming directly at you.
This is the problem with that, right? So if I was to go over there and do option 3, right? Well, all I'm doing is trying to navigate the toxic relationship that they already have.
Correct.
I don't want to do that because it shouldn't be happening at all. But I'm not the person that should be fixing that.
You're not asked to fix it.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to endure it either. I shouldn't have.
You wouldn't want to endure it, but she's enduring it for you.
She's not doing it for me.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She chose to.
But
I'm not
no.
putting a blaming game or anything.
No.
I'm saying,
This is what I was gonna say. It's not. I don't think she's enduring it for me because before I was there, she was enduring it. It was happening before she met me. It's just
Correct.
happening again with a different person that they're pointing the reason. Let's say before it was, we don't want you to do this thing because it's not ladylike. I'm not involved in that situation. I'm not there.
Correct.
But they're still using that manipulation for her. So now that I'm there, they go, well, we don't want you to go out with him because he's this or you don't have that.
correct.
It's not really it's not about me.
The reason why she's doing it for you is just these things that's happening where you grew up in a lot of the time you're like, I understand this is what you do.
Uh-huh.
And you either let it bother you or be like, brush off your shoulders, whatever. Now this situation I chose to participate with you with it. So I'm getting the feedback. You're not there to see the feedback.
Uh-huh.
Or she may come to you and tell you later. But I'm getting the feedback because I've made a decision to work with you on it. So regardless of what they're doing, she's still getting the brunt of it. Wherever she goes, whenever they talk to her, whatever. But she's still doing it with you. You're just not there seeing it because you choose not to be there.
But that's what I'm saying. Whether I was there or not, whether it was me or
No.
John.
I'm saying that because of she choose those things that were happening as she was growing up, or things that you had no option because that's
right.
what you were bringing up. However, you've developed certain ways to either ignore it, brush it off, or not.
Okay.
And I'm pretty assuming you have that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the things that they've done to you, you have like, no, I didn't say that.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
But many things that they've done to you growing up, either good or bad, or piss you off or things like that, you're like, certain times you're like, I don't give a crap. You you like, okay, this is how you are. Move on. I go about doing me, right?
Yeah.
But this is something that keeps happening because of a decision you've done with him.
I don't think so. Like, it doesn't stem from, because I think they're fine with the fact that I live with Donovan, that we moved out and all that stuff. I think they're fine with that now. It's more so like, it's just, I don't really think what they're upset about has to do with me. Honestly, I feel like it's more so they like to be in control of things.
Correct.
And because I don't fall into that, I don't think it's like personal against me, and I think that's part of their language and how they just handle things.
Correct.
So I don't really think it's a personal attack against me, but they end up doing that in the process. And funny enough, I kind of like that Donovan's not there for it, because I don't have him to kind of lean on or to look at to kind of try and help me navigate it, because it'll help me to like get the skills to do it myself, because I think it's very, very, very important for me to be able to do it myself, and I still
To do
working on it.
what exactly?
To have that kind of conversation with them, because I will take the kind of, it's hard to have that conversation with your parents in the role of being a child or their child, as opposed to being an adult and like looking for your own looking out for your own interests. It's like looking out for your own interests or becoming who you are, becoming everything like that. It's like a personal attack against them, and that's not what it is. I'm being my own person. I'm being me. I'm going up, and it's not seen like that. So it's just hard to have that conversation with them, because you can have the conversation when they're fine, like when there isn't anything agitating or stirring the pot, and they'll make sense and they'll say, okay, yeah, I understand. Okay, you have the conversation, and then something else pops up and the old behavior comes back again.
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. It's about to die. It's about to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I mean, it's the old age question. And it doesn't even stop with us anyway. It's like different cultures, or even here. Like, how do you let your child go and be their own person? Not everybody does it smoothly. Some freak out, some do that, and some like you leave. Don't
It looks a
come
lot
back.
better. I was talking about the way it looks. Can you put the strap on the other side? What was I saying?
And you don't feel like you can have. Do you feel like your parents you can talk to and be reasonable, or that's not?
It depends on your relationship with them. Some.
Talking about you personally.
Yeah, I say it depends on the relationship with them. Just because my siblings or one of my siblings could have it with them, that does not necessarily mean I have it with them. So it really depends. But
Yeah, you don't have it with them.
Wait, have what? What relationship? What
A
happened?
relationship to try and talk it through the way that Melissa is saying. She wants to get to a point where she can.
there's
speak
also a
to
level
them.
of she wants to do it. I'm at the level where it happens, doesn't, it doesn't.
If the conversation happens?
Yeah, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm still gonna do what I'm gonna do. There's just there is to it.
Okay.
Like, I don't feel like I need to go and have the conversation. If it happens, I'll welcome it. If it doesn't, I could care less.
But what happened? But
The conversation of what she's saying about like, we talk about what happened, this.
with them growing with their history.
No, like the way she's talking about like whatever the event happened, they go back and talk about the event, like explaining the event and how. Whatever.
I mean, it's not necessarily that. It's more so like with new things that'll pop up. So, for example, I was working at Amazon and I stopped working there. And I told my mom, and she freaked out. Like, oh my God, you're not working. It's like it's always something new that happens. And in those moments, I have to remind her, like, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. I understand why I'm doing it. I understand why you're concerned about it, but I'm not concerned, and I trust in what I'm doing. And having to have that conversation like repeatedly, I feel like is what's gonna make a difference. Not so much talking about past transgressions, it's just stuff that's constantly happening.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess that's from a female perspective. I just feel like you should talk about it.
Talk about it with them.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying. Are you talking? Because she's saying talk about the thing that's happening at the moment. Are you talking about something that happened before?
It doesn't matter. Just talk about it. And I don't feel that you should feel like you can't or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And the fact that she feels like, hey, I want to get to a point where if I'm doing something, I could tell you about it and not feel any kind of way about you freaking out. And I can explain to you, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why.
Yeah.
And you calm down. It's going to be okay. But to him, it's like, well, I know you're probably going to freak out about it, so that's why I'm not going to tell you. or we're gonna get into an argument about it. So if it's not that important, I'm not gonna share it with you. And I just personally, I don't feel like that's not the way you should go about it.
And for me, that's why I don't like to get involved with whatever they're doing, because, like she said, I don't want to be the reason that they feel like she's doing something. Like if I'm there and she's like, "Mom, why are you talking to me like that?" They're gonna be like, "Oh, because your boyfriend's here. Now you wanna stand up for yourself."
You don't say that regardless if you're here or not.
But that's my no, 100%.
But it still
But that's
holds
why it's
more weight
better.
when it's just me there and him not being
Right, because it's gonna happen. Whether she's here, you move out the house with him, now you talking like this, right? Either way, the reason I don't like to be involved in it at all, because I'm like, I want you to handle this, because if I have to handle this, they're gonna respect me and they won't do it to me, but they're gonna keep doing it to you whether I'm there or not. And I'm like, I don't want to come over there and now, like I said earlier, I got to be like, Miss whatever, don't talk to her like that. Don't. Why are you saying this to
That's
thing?
option A.
What? Which one?
No, I'm saying that's from what we said earlier. That's option A.
Yeah, I'm like, and I don't want. But when you say with option 3, it's like go over there and navigate. Okay.
No, not you teaching her how to navigate. She takes care of her own business. It's just being there for, like, I guess, the support. But like you said, she said she doesn't want it because she wants to do it on her own, which is fine and respectful too.
There automatically just negates whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yeah, and that right. So they don't see her as her own person when that happens. They think like, oh, it's Donovan and Melissa doing this, and then I have to be like, and this another thing too is even when they call her and say that, she has to be able to tell them like, no, it was something that happened recently. They'll just be like, oh, Donovan told you to stop working at Amazon, and if she doesn't know how to handle that kind of toxic behavior when it happens, then I feel like she won't be able to handle it when she's over there with them, whether I'm here on the phone or not. And then when I come over, there's going to be the same thing. So I'd rather go into an environment where she's already handled that. So they already know we're not going to do this to Melissa. So now when I come over there, it's a better environment because I'm like, I'm having fun with you guys. They're having fun with me. Melissa's having fun because I don't want to go there. I'm having fun. They're having fun. And she's sad because they're saying stuff to her. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel good if I'm at this event.
Nah, here's the thing. What about if that never happens?
You said what?
If they never come to be.
If which one?
The last part. If it's an ongoing thing, because cancer people don't change all the time. Let's talk about them. If they never get to that level, now what?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, but what I would do different than what I believe she would do. I would just stop talking to my parents. Because I'm like, I'm not going to go, well, because you're my parents, I'm going to subject myself to being abused by you just because you're my parents. If I go, I don't like this, I'd rather not be abused and be by myself than be like, I talk to my parents even though they abuse me regularly. I don't know if she feels like that. Do you feel like that?
I'll probably keep talking to them because my brothers are there.
Yeah.
Because of your brothers or just...
Like, most definitely because of my brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. I'm the oldest, so it's like I don't want to remove myself from their life by removing myself from being around my mom.
So like I said, that's different. Because I'm not. I just mom, dad, brother. I don't have one, but listen. I'm good. I'm good on that. So,
whatever. You can't disown me. So.
I mean, you're the one I like. You're the good
You
sibling.
might get to the point where you don't like me. I'll still be it.
You're a good sibling. So, that is episode 26 of the Bamboo Project Podcast. My Instagram is DONIVANGRAY, and my beautiful girlfriend's Instagram is ANETABURN. Actually, I forgot one thing. I forgot to say the date. What time we start this podcast? It is September 15th, and we started this at 3 o'clock, maybe 3:30. Either way, stay tuned for next episode. And that is, oh no, I forgot the last thing. Bamboo Project out. There you go.